And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Oh, attention to roll call, baby.
That's right. We're live. Listen, good morning, friends of the podcast. I'm already looking at the chat. Some people are already giving out their meal times, their president duty. Love it. Shout out. John, you look like you're podcasting from the great state of Wisconsin.
You don't like my Montana jacket, bro? Look at this. Costco, $25, people. Nice little interior, you know. That's how I shop now. That's what happens when you're in your 40s.
How much was the hat?
The hat was $20. The hat was almost as much as the jacket, you know. So I wanted to be like Eric Adams. You know, I wanted to, now I'm MAGA. Well, actually, I was always a Trump supporter. Unlike Eric Adams, who was a couple of weeks ago, got the jail ready, got Rikers Island ready to put him in it. But now he's MAGA. You know, good times, baby. You could cancel him, Eric. You could cancel him.
He don't care.
He don't care.
He doesn't care. Outstanding. I love it. Well, let's get into it. What is it to be MAGA?
I mean, so first thing I think, right? That's a great question. What is it to be MAGA, right? You're going to make America great again, right? You're saying you want to make America great again. What is making America great again? What has came in over the past 4 years? The government is able to mandate what you put in your body. The government doesn't care about your religion. The government only cares about you if you want to change your gender or sexually confuse your kids. The government can cancel you. All of the social media platforms, including the supposed right-wing media platforms, will cancel you for giving your opinion and telling the truth and giving documented evidence. You will get canceled for. You will get canceled for telling the truth in America. So to me, make America great again is we were going to secure our borders. We were going to once again enforce the laws that were on the book. We were going to hold people accountable for their own actions. And we were going to restore freedom of speech in this country and freedom of bodily autonomy in this country. That's what it is to me. And Eric Adams represents the exact opposite of everything I just stated to me.
I think it's very simple. I think everything you said is absolutely 100% right. It comes down to defending the U.S. Constitution. If you think about it, anyone in this country right now that defends the U.S. Constitution, they fall under MAGA. And then there's everybody else. And that's the bottom line. There should be nothing wrong with saying, make America great again. Because if you think America has been great since 2008, then you have to wake up and ask yourself, are you an actual true patriot? Are you an American? Because since 2008, we've only seen the spoils of government. So I think this country has just went down. It's taken a turn for the worst. And I think it shouldn't be looked at as a negative thing by saying make America great again. It's saying that you love this country, that you're a true patriot, and you want this country not to go back to what it was, but to move forward under the U.S. Constitution and to get better. Hey, listen, shout out to Hassan. Hassan says, John, you're missing the boxing ring robe entrance. Absolutely. I hope that by the time John's lawsuit comes to a close, that he could unveil that robe. But no matter what, it doesn't matter whether you get a payout or not. That's not what this is about. The fact is that he has a fight in this, and that the lawyer is willing to stand up for John, and means he's standing up for everyone else. And everyone else has a fight in this also, because John is them and they are John. He represents many men, many white men, alpha men in the police department and other agencies of New York who are vital, important workers to the system of government for making New York City flow. And they were discarded and abandoned. So we have to step up to this. If we don't, if there aren't people like John and other people out there that step up to this mandate, then we're not making America great again. I'm sure pre 9/11, forget about even 2008, even pre 9/11, no one in this country could have ever imagined a mandate being administered and people would be homeless and people would be out of work and stemming from such a thing. No one would ever imagine. You wouldn't believe it. You would say that's something in the future that would never happen, but it happened.
I mean, so, I've been doing a lot of exposing. I've been going through a lot of court cases, and I've been showing. Starting yesterday, I started a thread, mandate thread. So check that out on my X and on my Instagram. And I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be going through court cases. If your court case is in there, sorry, it is what it is. It's public info. I'll do my best to keep your name out of it. I'll even keep the docket out of it. But it's public info, and I'm going to go through it. And if you guys are upset about it, I really don't care. It's public information. I'm going to use it. So you could have your lawyer contact me. I could care less. So I'm going to go through these court cases, and I am going to expose the hypocrisy of New York City. I'm going to expose the evils that was done. I'm going to expose the fact of the people that pick and choose who had to do something and who didn't, violated the law, knew they were violating the law, and are now trying to distance themselves from it. I'm going to expose the fact that they testified how they broke the law and how they truly didn't understand the law. And I'm going to expose it. And for those of you that did that, if you're upset that I'm doing that, have your lawyer reach out to me. I don't care. Sue me. I don't care. This is public information. These are your words, not mine. These are per the transcript. If the transcript is wrong, take it up with a Jaguar reporting company who does the reporting for the transcripts in New York City. So we're going to go forward. We're going to expose. We're going to put that out there. We're going to put down, and then we're going to make memes about it. And then we're going to do a podcast about it. And we're going to tell a whole little story. And then we're going to do some little comics, and we're going to tell some little stories about it, because this has nothing to do with me. This has nothing to do with you. This has everything to do with our children. This has everything to do with what this nation was founded on. This nation was founded on religious freedom. If for those of you that don't know the history, people came to this country for religious freedom. The foundation of religious freedom is that I can believe what I want. In New York City, under Eric Adams, it started under de Blasio, but Eric Adams enforced it. Under Eric Adams, they told you, you have no faith. You have no faith, and there are people who believed they were arbiters of your religion, of your faith. So I've been getting a lot of pushback. I actually had a comment early this morning. I just looked at it, and the guy said to me, never forget this was Bill de Blasio. It wasn't Eric Adams. It wasn't Eric Adams that fired Marlon Bethel. It was Bill de Blasio. I was like, no, it was Eric Adams who fired Marlon Bethel, a black man, an immigrant, a detective, a 16-year detective. And you know when Eric Adams fired? You know when Eric Adams fired Marlon Bethel? I'll tell you when he did. I'll tell you when Eric Adams fired Marlon Bethel. Right after he had his hand on Officer Rivera's coffin, on his casket, on the hearse. And right after we laid to rest Rivera and Mora, he went out and he fired New York City police officers. Don't you tell me who Eric Adams is. I'm going to tell you who Eric Adams is. Eric Adams isn't for making America great again. Eric Adams is a snake. Mike Ragusa, you're probably listening to this. He just put this out. New York City mayor's in his gangster era now. Yeah, he's in his gangster era. This is the era when gangsters, because they all end up dead or in jail. I was wrong about Eric Adams. Eric Adams ain't no John Gotti. John Gotti never waved the white flag, right? John Gotti was telling his son to never wave the white flag. Eric Adams is in his gangster era now. He's ratting on all his friends. He's trying to distance himself from all the things he conspired with to save his own behind. So, yeah, he's in his gangster era, and he's going to end up just like the rest of them, disgraced.
Well, we know Eric Adams is MAGA right now, but really what Eric Adams is, because Eric Adams is self-serving, right? He's going to reign as the mayor. Not run, reign, which means to be a king. Eric Adams is making Eric Adams great again, making life for Eric Adams great. That's what he's doing. Mr. D, shout out to you, brother. He says, black men were discarded too, and I am Muslim. Well, if you had an opportunity, please take a look at our podcast where we spoke about John's initial summons and complaint. And we said that this complaint is conducive to what happened to John. Everyone has a different scenario, something different, a different event that happened to them that surrounds the mandate. Everyone had different experiences, why they were discriminated against, why they were ousted, why they were felt forced, subjected to it. So everyone has a different case. You're absolutely right. Marlon Bethel is a case in point. Immigrant, black man, intelligent, detective. He was discarded. He was terminated wrongfully terminated from the New York City Police Department. He was terminated. And the only reason he's not employed at this time because he's intelligent and he stands on moral principle. Marlon Bethel was given an opportunity to come back to the job, work for the New York City Police Department. If he waives his rights as his rights were violated as a New York City police detective, as an American, his rights were violated. So if he's willing to waive those rights, Marlon Bethel has the opportunity to be a New York City police officer again. But you know what he doesn't have? He loses himself. He loses the man that he is, that stood on moral principle, that asked questions, that wanted to know the science behind the shot. Marlon Bethel did not withstand his moral principle because of religious beliefs or medical reasons. He asked questions. He was concerned about the science for himself and for others. And for that, as a black man in America, he was discarded under Mayor Eric Adams. So Mayor Eric Adams loves to tout his people and say, look at all this chocolate. And he wants to support black people. It's not about black people. It's about green. His color is green. How can he support Eric Adams and his people to make money? And now the color it's about Eric. Eric is making life great again for himself. And that's what this is about. And we can see it at this point. Eric Adams will take any strides it takes to take care of himself. So, and Rich Rod, shout out to you. We're feeling very patriotic today. Just turns out John's got his MAGA hat on. I have an Iwo Jima shirt. If you can't see it at the bottom here, but support America. Let's be true patriots. John, don't you agree? I think Eric Adams is making himself great. That's all this is about. Eric Adams will drive that bus over anyone to take care of Eric.
Eric Adams will do anything and say anything. He is a snake in its truest form. Eric Adams is showing everybody exactly who Eric Adams is. You see all these fake Republicans in New York, right? Oh, Eric, become. You see Gavin Wax, the head of the New York Republicans, young Republicans. Come be a Republican, Eric. Eric Adams isn't a Republican. Eric Adams isn't a Democrat. Eric Adams is a street hustler who will do and say anything to get ahead. Right? And I didn't get to the comment yet. For you who are Muslim and black, 100%, you were discriminated against as well. New York City told you had no faith. And where were your faith leaders? Because I know where mine were. They were cowering in a corner. They were turning their back on me. I know exactly where they were. And that's not part of my religion, right? My Savior, Jesus Christ, he didn't have a church. The church didn't like him either. So as far as I'm concerned, yeah, I'm Roman Catholic. I've received every sacrament. But as far as I'm concerned, the church failed me. And it's time that we're righted. Just like Eric consistently says, who's the job? We're the job. Who's the church? We're the church. Who's the representative of your faith? You are. Your family, your children. So I'm look at Marlon Bethel, black man, immigrant, chocolate NYPD detective, fired by New York City Mayor Eric Adams' chocolate administration for refusing to partake in the mandate. Here he is. Same with Mark Robinson, black man, homeless. Veteran NYPD police officer terminated because he held on to his religious beliefs. Another black man. This has nothing to do. Yes. Did my claim say that it was because I was a male Christian? Did it absolutely said that. That does not mean that Muslims and Jewish people were not discriminated against. Because Eric said they came after me because I'm white, doesn't mean they didn't come after black people and Spanish people. It doesn't mean that at all. It doesn't mean they didn't go after Dominicans and Jamaicans. They went after us all. They divided and conquered us. The basis of my lawsuit is who did they disproportionately go after? And they disproportionately went after male Christians. And based upon the then Equity and Inclusion Commissioner's statements, she had a true discriminatory stain on men. Not only did she do that, she was involved in changing the face of policing by putting 30% women in policing by 2030. How do you do that without getting rid of men? So while the COVID mandate itself was illegal, regardless if you put a mandate in or the mandate itself was illegal. So regardless if you put an accommodation in or you didn't put accommodation in, doesn't matter to me. But that's a different argument. That's a totally different argument. Take that up with Dr. Jay Varma, who's also in the suit. Dr. Jay Varma said there's no difference between me and somebody who did something that I didn't do. Said there's no difference between me. There's no difference. While he was having drug-fueled, sex-filled orgies with everybody, he wasn't checking status, right? I wasn't allowed to go eat in a restaurant with my kids. My daughter wasn't allowed to go to her vision classes or her physical education classes or anything that she needed to help her grow and become stronger, right? No, she wasn't allowed to do any of that. Why? Because she was dirty. I was dirty. We weren't exactly what Bill de Blasio said. We're not allowed to take part in society. I was allowed to put a uniform on, though, for a while, until I opened my mouth, right? And some of you guys made it past, and some of you guys didn't. But it was wrong, and it's time to be rectified. Not for me, not for the people that was wrong, not for any of you, for your children. Is this the country you want your children to grow up in, where men, immoral, disgusting individuals like Eric Adams have control of you and treat you like plebes?
When it comes to the court documents, with these depositions surrounding the mandate, I don't think anybody should be shy or timid that their court case is out there. I think people should own this, and they should want their court case out there. Everyone needs to read these court cases. They need to read these depositions to figure, not even to figure out, just to see the evilness, how deviant it was behind this mandate, that people are willing to lie at these depositions to save themselves, to save some sort of face, knowing exactly what they were doing at the time of the mandate. So I think that these depositions have to be out there. I think that everyone needs to take ownership and not be shy and timid to them. I wouldn't be shy and timid at all. I understand if people don't want their name out there, they don't want information, but these court cases need to be out there. They need to be read. They need to be read constantly. People need to see what people are actually capable of. And that it goes back to when we talk about Ordinary Men, which is a fantastic documentary in reference to Nazis. I was shocked to learn that the Nazis were not forced to be in that position, but they forced themselves because of the appearance, the fear of stepping out from a group, the fear of being different, of ostracizing themselves from the pack. So it was more important to do the wrong thing, to stay with the crowd and stay with the group. That's why it's so important these depositions are out there, and people need to read them. They need to be read thoroughly and to understand what people are capable of. Could we become Nazis? Yes. I've learned that from watching The Mandate, watching documentaries such as Ordinary Men, seeing what's going on in this country. And if there aren't people that are willing to stand up and speak out, we'll never move forward. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. So these depositions, they should be out there. They should be read. They should be, people should be proud of them. They should own it. I think that people should not shy away from it at all.
Yeah, I get it. It's fear, right? I feel fear often. I think it's the amount of threats I get. I think I would be an idiot not to. But I think us as humans, we're always going to have fear of the unknown, right? We're always going to have fear of, oh my God, what if I do this? And what if they say this? And what if they're mad at me? I think me and Eric have been in a position where people have been mad at us for about 3 years. I know I have for about 3 years, Eric about 2, Sal about 2, Marlon now, right? People, they wish a lot of bad things upon us and they want to make it happen. And, but I think that's where I rely most on my faith. This is what happened. This is the truth. If we cannot tell the truth in this country, there is a big problem. There is a big problem. So I haven't begun to dug deep into these court cases. Yesterday was just the start. I'm going to go ahead. I don't care the implications for my own case. I really don't care. It was wrong what they did to me. I should be righted the same way that everybody else should be. But it doesn't matter. Everyone's like, oh, you got a court case now. You should shut up. Now, I'm going to get louder. I think I've been real quiet. I've been real good about everything. And, I think for the MAGA crowd and for the conservative crowd and the Republicans, everyone thinks Donald Trump's in and he's going to save everything. Donald Trump's one man. And Donald Trump's made a lot of mistakes in his first term, and I think mainly his appointments. We saw yesterday a Florida sheriff actually turn down the appointment. First, he was I think it was the Hillsborough County sheriff, if I'm not mistaken. First, he was accepted the appointment, and I'm like, wait, isn't that the guy that locked up a pastor that was praying outside in his church during the mandates in Florida, in the free state of Florida under Ron DeSantis? And yeah, that was the guy. Turned out that was the guy. Last guy I would have picked for anything. Last guy I would have picked, right? Guy thinks he's a stormtrooper, forgets that we live in America, and shows that we are just ordinary men. We're cowardly. We'll do things that elected bureaucrats will tell us that we know violate the Constitution of the United States, no violate our religious beliefs. And he went and he locked up a pastor who was outdoors praying and had his church congregation praying at a time when the media was blitzing us with fear. They wanted you to be afraid. At a time when a lot of people found God. A lot of people found God during that time because it was a very scary time. If you turned on that news, I'll never forget, I walked in my mother-in-law's house and I would just listen to a couple of minutes of the news and I smacked the TV off. I was like, don't you ever put that TV back on again. Don't put that TV back on again. That TV, they're trying to tell you to be afraid. That is not what our faith tells us. Our faith doesn't tell us to be afraid. And us as individuals, as Americans, there's no little asterisks by the Constitution. It doesn't say, well, when the whole world says you should be afraid, none of this applies any longer. Doesn't say that. Doesn't say that. And, we're far from the World War II generation. And now that Donald Trump's in, it's time that we right the wrongs. Because everything that happened in 2020, every system that happened in 2020, where the media boxed you out, where they kept you in the Overton window, where you couldn't tell the truth, where elected bureaucrats were getting away with absolutely everything, where our borders were open and criminals were walking free while they were going after good, hardworking Americans who were defending themselves or defending others who did the morally right thing, and they're using lawfare against political targets. Everything that happened in 2020, it's still in place today. Everything. And yes, he's not in yet, but he needs to know, and we need to help him. Not that he's in. You know why I wanted Donald Trump in? I wanted Donald Trump in because I believe that Donald Trump is the man that will listen to the American people. Not because he's perfect. Not because he's perfect, because he will listen to the American people. He will take advice. If we went with the other way, there was absolutely no way she was listening to anything. It was more of the same going to be continued. He's putting some great appointments. He's made some mistakes. He's a human, but it's on us to advocate for what we want and we don't want. Look at that sheriff's appointment. He pointed him to the head of the DEA, and we all made noise online. And what happened? He rescinded it, and he's no longer there. That's why I support Donald Trump.
Before I read out Villas Ventores, Hassan asked a great question. Would you guys ever go back to the job if they ever offered it to you guys? I'll take a stab at this real quick. Not to go totally off topic, but I just want to say I enjoyed my time on the job. I loved anti-crime. I loved running and gunning. I loved working in plainclothes, getting illegal firearms, working with the men and women that I worked with. But that time has passed. It's no longer policing in the same manner. At this point, if you become a cop today, I'm not sure exactly what that means. I don't know if it means the same thing it meant when we were on the job. To be a cop, to be a warrior, to have that warrior spirit in times of battle, to also have that sense of professionalism and stoicism in times of garrison, to go out there and be a protector for the city, to go out there to do intrusive police work. That was the job that I loved to do. In the manner and the facet now, what they want from cops and the position that they're in, they're not cops in the same facet, in the same manner. They're observing, they're reporting, repeating, very similar to being security guards. There are some out there doing intrusive police work, but they have a different blanket of protection. The average cop cannot do intrusive police work because they'll face the arm of an overzealous CCRB. legislation from city council, leadership that's inept, inadequate, that cannot support them, and a failed administration that's one way and self-serving. So I would not come back in that manner, in that facet. I would definitely consider possibly working as a commissioner, but under this administration, we wouldn't last very long. I refuse, and in no way, shape, or form, I give you my word, if that was to ever happen, I would never pander to politics. I would do what's best in the best interest for the cops. So I'm sure with that being said, I would not last very long. Shout out to VSS Ventura's, $10 coffee and donuts. Chronister was a terrible pick. Either it was a bad decision or Trump's using it to vet people within his own administration. Hard to see it as just a bad choice given all his other picks. I think that Trump is working with administration right now where they're trying to move forward. And they're also trying to step outside the box and be critical thinkers. I think that some of the picks they're making they're great picks, really can help the Trump campaign move forward, help this country. And some of these picks are very questionable. But at the same time, I agree with you, John. Trump is human. He admitted his first position as president. His failures were wrong picks for his administration. And that's how you learn from your failures. So again, I think some of these failures is an opportunity to move forward and to see what went wrong with these type of picks. So hopefully he has the right people that are around him to make the correct picks. I think Chronister was a terrible pick. I have to agree with you, VSS Ventura's. So hopefully you're right and we could actually move forward.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I used to say I want to go back, but now I think about it and I have to go back. If I get the opportunity to go back, as uncomfortable as it'll be made for me, as much as I cannot stand Eric Adams, John Schell, Kaz Daughtry, Tariq Shepard, Tanya Kinsella, basically every single person that's in the administration, even people that I somewhat like as people, they would make my life a living hell. I think it would be very symbolic and I would have to do it. I would have to do it. On the other end of it, I didn't get to retire when I wanted to. You know, everyone's like, oh, it's noble what you did. You got to go out your own way. No, I didn't. I don't know how long I would last, obviously, but symbolically, I would have to go back. You know, I would have to do it. I would have to do it for a while, 100%. And it's more symbolic to me than anything. And it's not just symbolic for me, it's symbolic for the moment and everything else. I think that the way that we were forced out of our careers should never happen to anybody again. We had contracts that were violated. We had laws that were violated. We had the largest law enforcement organization in the world not only disregard laws, but knowingly violate them. If you don't think that had a huge impact on morale, I mean, you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. I mean, you know, I'm gonna read some of these tweets. I wasn't planning on doing this today. I really wanted to just focus on Eric Adams and do this at a later date. But I mean, I'll tell you right now, morale. You want to see a morale boost? Put me back in uniform for a day. You're gonna see a morale boost. I'll tell you that. I don't even care what rank you put me back at. Put me back. Watch. Because I could still walk in any precinct I want to in New York City. When I go to New York City, that's why we're hated. When I'm in New York City, guess what? The cops like me more than they do you, John Schell. More than they do you, Kaz Daughtry. Right? Why? Because do they agree with everything I say? No. I'm human. None of us agree with everything we say, right? We all fight with each other. Me and Eric argue on here all the time. We argue offline all the time. I argue with my sisters. I argue with my wife. We see things differently. We argue. We come to understandings. That's human, right? They don't do everything I say. Everything Eric says, no. Nobody agrees. We sit here. We have a normal conversation like gentlemen about it. But the thing they know is I'm telling what I believe in my heart and what in my head. I'm not trying to sell them a bag of goods. I'm not trying to tell them that crime is down. I'm not trying to tell them that people are paroled into this country and that, you know, they're actually here legally, which is what John Schell said on Dr. Phil the other day, which they've been saying for a few years. And now They're saying, no, yeah, we're going to deport them. It's like, wait, what? Time out. Time out. You said they were paroled in here legally. You said they were paroled in here legally, which means that they have constitutional rights now. But now you're gonna deport them, Eric Adams. So now John Shell's gonna change that stance. Now he's gonna change it. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. So I would have to go back.
I gotta laugh. Hassan said we're gonna need to borrow the RV for a fixed post. Outstanding, brother. I would love it. You know, one of these days, it's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna drive my RV right into New York City. That would be outstanding. John, maybe we'll even do a podcast. Sit right on top of the roof, and we'll get a microphone, and we'll be pretty loud. I mean, we were told on Facebook, John, right? We're just two retired guys with a microphone. You know what? Matty B, shout out to you, brother, because I would love to take my RV, drive it right to New York City, get on top of my roof with that microphone, and believe me, we'll make sure we're heard. We're not shy. We're not going away either. So, yeah, Ron Layson, shout out to you. Good morning, RV life. I hope the kids are feeling better. Anyway, listen, the bottom line is people have to stand strong. And I think the point that we really solidified here and that we want to validate and people to understand is that different forms and different walks of life have been discriminated against and their rights were violated when it comes to the mandate, and that different people have a different fight, but everyone has a fight as a whole. So we have to get together, there's strength in numbers, and you have to support the men and women that were discarded. Now, again, I support the people that were discarded. Unfortunately, I was discarded by the NYPD in a different facet, in a different manner. And I'm not saying, nobody cares about my stance. But right now we're talking about this specific issue. There are different facets within the police department in this administration where people have met their peril. They were treated just as a number. They weren't treated as vital New York City workers. New York City workers, I put out a post, and I really believe that. New York City workers are the heart of New York City government, and they make the blood pump for the entire city. And they were treated as just a number and not of importance of vital nature. It's such a shame if we think back to the height of COVID. It was New York City government workers that were so vital to keep things moving. It was nurses, it was teachers, it was truckers, it was cops, it was firemen, it was sanitation. It was all the people that keep the blood flowing of New York City. And the same people that kept the blood flowing are the same people that discarded at the same time. It's disgusting when you think about it. And we can't allow this to happen. Can't allow it to happen again. Sleepy Joe, shout out to you, brother. $3.33. That's coffee and donuts at a podcast. Eric's RV as the finest unfiltered podcast, THV. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. I actually have two RVs, so I'll decide which one I'm going to bring. So we'll make that the canteen. Forget about going to the Union to get terrible tasting coffee and stale donuts and stale bagels. You know what? If this podcast goes in the right manner, we'll come over to the RV and we'll have good tasting donuts, good tasting coffee, and we'll have friends and listeners to the podcast. We'll have the right people here. We'll have a good time and show that we actually care about people.
Absolutely. So while we brought it up, let's talk about MAGA Eric. Let's talk about what happened under MAGA Eric. Since we're already on the thing, let's go through what I found in these court cases, and then we'll move on to all the other stuff on Eric Adams. So here's a court case. I'm not going to say again. I'm not going to bring up the officer's name. I don't know how they feel about me doing this, and I try to respect everybody's opinion. But this is public record, and this is from a court document. So for those of you, I could gladly send all this to your lawyer. I have all the information where I pulled it from. But this is coming right off of New York courts, So New York City's mandate. Did NYPD News declare 6,500 members who submitted religious exemption accommodations not credible? Below are the transcripts from a deposition of then NYPD Director Michael Milkowski of the EEO division. These transcripts are from an active lawsuit against the NYPD brought by an NYPD officer who was denied a religious exemption. According to the transcripts, as of November 30th, 2021, approximately 170 176 applications have been approved, and 6,500 have been denied. And this is only as of November 30, 2021. You got to remember, Eric Adams went a year and 1 month past this before he deemed it. So there were still people being terminated, being forced to make decisions to retire and resign. So this is just as November 30th, 2021. 176 applications approved, 6,500 denied. The remaining applications are being processed. According to the below testimony, one of the factors used to determine who was approved or denied was the credibility of the applicants themselves. The impact of this should transcend the mandate. If 6,500 members of the NYPD were not credible in their religious beliefs, how can their integrity be trusted? How can they enforce law? How can they write summonses, make arrests? Why weren't they departmentally charged with submitting a false official document? Obviously, Governor Kathy Hochul, New York City Mayor Tish James, NYPD PC, New York City Council, NYPD Equity, the Manhattan DA, the Queens DA, the Bronx DA, the Brooklyn DA, the Staten Island DA were not concerned. So maybe it's the credibility of the process that should be reviewed. You know, the process that didn't follow the law and cannot be explained by the people who were deciding who was and was not approved. We'll explore more in another post. Stay tuned. What do you think about that, Eric? NYPD Equity declared 6,500 NYPD officers not credible.
We spoke about this yesterday, and I said, how evil and how devious are these people that they're serving themselves at this point in this deposition. But it's about saving their own faces. To say that your determination is about credibility, to say that over 6,000 police officers lack credibility, willing to step on the toes of over 6,000 police officers because you're saving yourself, because you want to maintain some type of face in this world with this court case right now, with this deposition. It's absolutely disgusting. It just shows how devious people were, and it shows exactly what we've been saying. Could the NYPD, could any organization become stormtroopers and Nazis? And the answer is simple. The answer is yes. Why would you say that? Why would you say that over 6,000 were not credible? And that's what you're saying, right? When you say 165 police officers were found credible, but everyone else is not, that's what you're saying. You're saying that over 6,000 police officers that wear that uniform every day are not credible, that you don't trust these men and women. But again, who are you to say if they're credible or not about their religious beliefs? Who are you to make that determination? I thought it was only God that makes that determination if someone is vowing to their God. And I say their God because it's all forms of religion. Who are you to say that? Who has the right? I think this is the most disgusting thing. We really need to highlight that when it comes to these depositions. Ultimately, when it comes down to reasonable accommodations, which is why I like to reflect back to what I said on a prior episode. In a prior episode, I've said, several episodes, and I still believe in this, you should not have to articulate any form of your religious beliefs. The fact that you're writing out what you believe in, what excerpts, is absolutely ridiculous. It should be very simple. John McCary, tax number 9, whatever the case is, religious accommodation, please. This violates my religious beliefs. Whatever the case, you shouldn't have to write anything. Simple as that. You shouldn't even have to say what your religious beliefs are. Who in their right mind determines if your religion is appropriate, if you're practicing appropriately or not, and if you're actually worthy of saying that you're a religious person? If you've never went to church in your entire life and you decide you came up with your own religion, you made alienism, and that's what you believe in, are you not religious? And in alienism, you believe in having the science behind a shot, or having the information before you take that step, or not doing it at all. Are you wrong? I mean, what is religion? So it's what you believe in, right? So I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Again, shame on shame on this deposition. I just think that, again, who's not credible? You, Michael. You're the one that's not credible.
So, you jumped a little bit ahead, Eric, but you've been reading my mind, because what I was reading last night before I went to bed was exactly that. Who deemed you a credible or not? And it's something I'll be dropping later today on X and on Instagram. Apparently, Tanya Meisenholder says that she wasn't involved in this. She was just in charge of all of it. So, according to the testimony, she wasn't involved in it. It was Michael Melkowski and the people under him. But according to Michael Melkowski, it was him and Tanya Meisenholder. So why the distance? Why the distance now? Why not own it? I've owned everything I ever did. I own every arrest I've ever made. I've owned every summons I made. I've owned, excuse me, I've owned every mistake I've ever made on the job. Yeah, that was me. I've owned mistakes I didn't even do. My guys did things that were ridiculous, and I was like, that was my fault. I was the boss. It was my fault. Should have never happened. Should have never happened. Write me the CD. Wasn't them. It was me. I've owned a lot of things in my life, but now the distance. So who determines and who can determine? And the thing is, that's the other part of it, Eric. So you jumped ahead of me, and this is exactly what I was reading last night. And it's funny that you're bringing it up and questioning it, because it's fresh in my head. So who determines if you're religious or you're not religious? And the answer is, because this country was rooted in religious freedom, and our founders were so much smarter than us, and they thought about ahead, that they actually came up with law that said, actually, nobody can tell you who and what you believe. Nobody affirms your religious beliefs. So it comes out later in the court testimonies. And I'm going to put all this out, and we'll do another episode about this, but I'll label all this out step by step on Twitter and on Instagram. It comes out later that actually there was only one accommodation for NYPD members that didn't cause an undue hardship. And that accommodation was to allow them to mask and test. They actually, in their own policy, it did not cause an undue hardship to New York City. So like I said, legally, New York City can never deny you, because they're not there checking your credibility. They're not there asking you your faith. They're there to see if you're an undue hardship or not. That's it. So there needed to be something called cooperative dialogue. So when you file for an accommodation, the Office of EEO or Equity and Inclusion or the Religious Accommodation Office was required to partake in cooperative dialogue with you. Meaning they had to reach out to you, not to see if you're faithful, not to see how long you've been practicing for, not to see anything. You know what they had to reach out to you to find out? What accommodation you were seeking. So since we know, based upon the court testimony, that masking and testing was the only accommodation that did not cause an undue hardship, why were we all denied masking and testing? And it's a very curious case, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to get to the bottom of it. And for those of you that aren't from the NYPD, this is a large web that has been weaved over all in New York City and all of the New York City agencies and the state agencies. Well, actually, no, not the state. Governor Kathy Hochul didn't do it, and Andrew Cuomo didn't do it. Excuse me. Those people were allowed to mask and test. Excuse me. Port Authority was allowed to mask and test. MTA was allowed to mask and test. Why weren't us in New York City allowed to mask and test? Bill de Blasio and the enforcement of Eric Adams and the continued tyranny of Eric Adams it's 3 years now. It's 3 years now. None of us are back to work. None of us are compensated. None of us are made whole. Why was that? So we're going to untangle this weave in the NYPD. And this weave is going to untangle because the same thing that happened in the NYPD, it happened in the DOE, it happened in the FDNY, it happened in sanitation, it happened in parks, it happened in every city New York agency. The same thing. There was a message, and these people who were told to illegally deny you not only turned a blind eye to the law, they knowingly violate it, and we're going to prove it.
I think the mandate is the spark that ignited the fire. And the NYPD is on fire right now, and the cops are smelling the smoke. They can't even survive 5 years. 10 years is light years away for some of the cops right now because of the spoils of NYPD under this administration. And the mandate sparked it. It's the mandate. It's politics. You have cops wrongfully terminated, such as Sal Greco. You have white males that are being pushed out, completely discriminated against as such when it comes to the mandate, when it comes to myself by an overzealous civilian complaint review board. You have intelligent black cops, just as Marlon Bethel, that fall under tier 2. And Marlon's problem is not that he's chocolate. Marlon's problem is that he's intelligent and he's willing to ask questions. So don't be a masculine male. That's what it comes down to. If you show any signs of being an alpha masculine male, if you're a white male, if you're a black male, it doesn't matter. If you show signs of masculinity, this was an opportunity to turn the page. Ultimately, that's what this is about. And we provide the evidence on this podcast. When it comes to Tanya Meisenholder, we did a watch party when she referred to the police department, especially the law enforcement members, as knuckle draggers. And knuckle draggers is a derogatory term. Normally, it's a derogatory term used for black males. But when you watch this podcast, it was used in a manner to describe masculine white males when it comes to New York City Police Department. So ultimately, the mandate, suppressing good police officers doing intrusive police work, politics when it comes to people such as Sal Greco, it comes down to turn the page and DEI. 30 for 30, getting meek, timid, and docile males and females to fill the ranks of the police department, to have a less engagement with the public, to have men and women that do not have the appearance and professionalism of the uniform, which is the first step to omnipresence and first step in strength and first step so that police officers maintain public safety for others and also for themselves. There are some outliers out there right now. There are some men and women that have those masculine traits, but the overwhelming majority that come into the police department now, and I'm very suspicious and skeptical of the 1,600 police officers that we will get next year, that Jessica Tisch is trying to sell to the public that that's going to save the entire police department. And the manpower that we have right now, it's completely diminished, and it's continually, and it's an abomination. And we're losing men and women on a daily basis right now, and the police department's hemorrhaging. And 1,600 police officers will not fix the problem that's coming. It's a small Band-Aid, and it's not going to fill the ranks at all. And you can't replace veteran police officers such as John McCary, Eric Dim, Sal Greco, Stephen, Marlon Bethel, and so many others that have the experience, that have their boots on the ground, that have so much information and knowledge to pass the torch on to the young. They're no longer there. The young that come on the job at this point have no one to learn from. They're learning from failed, inept supervisors, failed leadership, inadequate. They're learning from egomaniacs. And that's the direction that department is going. And that's why we see so much unprofessionalism. That's why we see so many articles stem. We see sexual deviants come out from the police department. We see members of the police department caught stealing, embarrassing themselves because we don't have the proper leadership and the veterans to teach and to guide them and to police our own. There's no more better tool. It's not internal affairs than veteran police officers, good, strong, masculine men and women that have the ability to police their own. There's no better tool and effectiveness than policing your own.
Yeah. So, but Eric said a couple of good things. He said, cancel me. He said a couple of good things, Eric, and John Shell supports his cops. He said it on the news. He was on Dr. Phil. Don't worry about all the people leaving. And supposedly, there's all these rumors. Tom Homan's a big fan of John Shell. If Tom Homan's a big fan of John Shell, Tom Homan's an idiot. It's that simple. It's that simple. These guys, they have destroyed the NYPD. They have destroyed morale in the NYPD. If you want to walk into Homeland and you want to appoint John Schell, and you want a guy that walks in and wants his whole entire staff to give him a standing ovation every time he walks in a room, that's your guy. That's your guy. And then if that's your guy, you're a moron. And all the stuff you're saying on TV is just more gaslighting like Eric Adams and everybody else. And, and that's the other thing with this whole MAGA movement. I don't want to hear what Vivek Ramaswamy's going to do. I don't want to hear what Tom Homan's going to do. I don't want to hear what anybody's going to do. I want you to get in an office, and I want you to do it. I want you to fix the country. I don't want to hear all this stuff. I don't want to tell everyone, oh, this is what I'm going to do exactly when I get in. I don't care what Kash Patel is going to do to the FBI. Do it. I don't want to hear what Kash Patel is going to release. Release it. I'm sick of the gaslighting. I'm sick of the gaslighting from everybody, from all sides. We've been gaslighted for how many years now? Remember, we're going to release the Kraken? Remember that? Where's the Kraken? Anybody see the Kraken? I never saw the Kraken. Right? Remember that? We're going to release the Kraken. And everybody's like, yeah, we're going to release. And it's the same thing. Eric Adams said something once, so now he's a Republican hero. Right? Tulsi Gabbard said something once, she's a Republican hero. Elon Musk said something once, he's a Republican hero. I mean, come on, people. Let's fix this country. Let's make this country sane again. Let's make this country free again. How are we going to do that? We're going to right the wrongs that happened. We're going to ensure they don't happen again. We're going to put the people in place that matter. And I'm not knocking Tulsi Gabbard, and I'm not knocking Tom Homan, and I'm not knocking any of these appointments. I'm saying I don't want to hear the gaslighting. I want you to get in office. I want you to get sworn in, and I want you to go ahead and fix this country and make America great again, like you said you were going to do. That's what I want to see. So here's another email. Here's another thing I put out yesterday. I want your thoughts on this, Eric. This is so reading through this court testimony, and this court case is still active. And there's a lot here. There's a lot of depositions here. And I'm like, don't even know how everyone's not back to work at this point after reading this. And I'm not even, by the way, I'm not even like a fourth way done with any of this, the reading. So New York City's mandate thread in NYPD News, where you can change your gender or not even conform to a gender at all. The NYPD has declared you cannot change your belief system, or a particular amount of time is needed for the NYPD to affirm your beliefs, even though they cannot state what length of time that is. Below are the transcripts from a deposition of then NYPD Director Michael Malkowski of the EEO division. He's been promoted since, by the way. These are the transcripts from an active lawsuit against NYPD brought by an NYPD officer who was denied a religious exemption. Apparently, Mike testified below that one of the factors used to determine if your religious exemption was approved or not was the length of time you held a particular belief, which is a violation of New York State human rights law. As per the transcript, Mike stated, to the extent they've had, the length of time they had this belief, and whether this was a lifelong belief or whether this was something they just came up with in the past few days. And again, that falls on its face. Because I've been a lifelong, devout Roman Catholic. I asked if I could continue to be mass contested. The other accommodations that you could have given were to be allowed to work from home or to go to a command where you weren't public facing. Guess what? I was the integrity control officer for the facility management division. I was not in a public facing command. So I was already being accommodated, and there was no reason that my accommodation request should have been denied. I was already masking and testing, and I was already in a non-public facing command. I met two different factors when most people that were approved only got one of those. So what do you think about that, Eric? The length of time It's illegal. It's a violation of the law. There is no length of time you need to believe something for the NYPD or any other organization to affirm you.
Well, it's actually quite interesting. We can actually correlate this. Oh man, you got what I had. I had a rough week, brother. Oh, my voice is coming and going. I think it's coming back a little bit better, but as I talk, it just it's all sore. It's kind of weak. So we'll get back to it. It's all right. We'll fight through it. But you know what's quite interesting about this, John? Eric Adams is the mayor of New York City. He's supposed to have a stance and a position on government, on issues, on protocol, procedures, and what's the best interest for New York City residents. And Eric Adams changes his stance from moment to moment. He changes his beliefs. He changes his opinions. He changes his views so drastic. He went from pre-indictment Eric Adams to believing that New York City should remain a sanctuary city while keeping open borders because illegal aliens are New Yorkers, just like me and you, just like everyone else. And post-indictment Eric Adams changed his beliefs in a second. Someone can't change their beliefs in the NYPD. I don't believe there's a time at all. John, what do you think about this? Imagine, maybe you're not a religious person at all, but maybe you're a Catholic. Maybe you're an atheist. Maybe you say to yourself, I'm not into religion at all. But the minute it comes and you start to read the Bible and you make the determination, you know what? I believe in this stuff. I see myself with these values. I see myself living my life while reading the Bible. And for that, I don't want to take this shot. I want to continue my life of service in the New York City Police Department, in the fire department, whatever agency you work for in New York City. But I've made this determination. Now that the mandate, I started to read the Bible, I find I align with these beliefs. For that, I want a reasonable accommodation. What do you think about that?
I'm going to go back to the same thing. Who the hell am I or anybody else on this earth to tell you what you believe or how true your belief is? Everybody's life changed in one thought. One thought today could change your entire life. You could think this thought, it could cement into your foundation of belief, and that is it. It's over. This is what you believe going forward. We no longer believe in redemption. We no longer believe that people could change who they are in a city that's telling you that criminals should get 79 chances, 370 chances. We're telling them those people could be reformed, but you can never be reformed. You yourself can never be changed. Everybody else can. You could change your gender and species at will, but you can never change your foundational belief. There was a thought that changed my mind. There was a thought that cemented me, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the day when I heard it. Because, like I've said, I read Anne Frank at a very young age, and it scarred me. For years, I had dreams. For years, even still till today, I had dreams that tanks came outside my house and tried to send my family off in boxcars. It was a traumatic read for a young kid that had just witnessed a horrible thing in life, right? It was a traumatic read. I had already went through actual trauma, and then I read that book, and it scarred me even more. And there was always this one belief I have. I would never be a Nazi. They would never make me be a Nazi. That is disgusting. I could never be a Nazi. And then one day I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and I believe I was a sergeant in the NYPD at the time. And Jordan Peterson was on it. I think it was 2016. And Jordan Peterson said this: "You think you wouldn't have been a Nazi? Who the hell do you think you are? You'd be a Nazi so fast your head would spin." And I sat there and I'm like, I've been thinking about this since I'm 8 years old. I'm never going to be a Nazi. Not me. And he said, oh, you're not afraid to die? All right, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to kill your wife. I'm going to kill your kids. And, and the wife, I'm like, listen, bad things happen, But then they get to my kids. And I'm like, oh, man. Maybe I would be a Nazi. And that changed my whole life. And it changed the whole thought pattern that I had. I was like, oh, you know what? I'm not that tough. That is really hard. He's like, you think you would have been the person that hid the Jews? You think you're that tough? Those people are so rare. And 2020 showed that. 2020 proved everything he said, right? But that one thought changed my life. Changed my whole foundational belief. That I could never be a Nazi. I thought that thought for over 30 years. And it changed in an instant. And then going forward, I was like, there are things that people will fold to. There are bad things that many people will fold to save other people. There are bad things. But on the other end of it, there's another thought that I have. There are a lot of things in this life that are worse than death. There are a lot of things in life that are worse than death.
Well, I agree. Right? I agree with you. I think there's a lot of things in this life that are worse than death, because ultimately life is temporary and death is permanent, right? I follow John Danaher. John Danaher is one of the most fundamental gurus of jiu-jitsu, and he teaches jiu-jitsu. And he always talks about, he's one of the most famous jiu-jitsu instructors throughout the entire world. He's created so many champions. But he's also, before he got into jiu-jitsu, he was a philosopher. And he always says that you have two deaths in life, right? One death is when you're born, that you were dead already. And the second is afterlife. So I agree with you. I'm not scared of death, because ultimately death really is life. Life is temporary. It's a gift, and you have to enjoy it while you're here. So you have to stand up for moral principle. You have to be willing, because life is too short. You have to be willing to lay down at night and look up at the ceiling and ask yourself, did you do the right thing by yourself? Did you stand up for what you believe in? Could you close your eyes? If this was the last time you had to close your eyes, do you believe that you were true to yourself? Do you believe you were true to your family? Do you believe that you did the right thing? And I don't want to ask those questions. So that's why I say I'm always willing to speak up. I'm willing to speak out from a crowd. I'm willing to ostracize myself if it's doing the right thing. When I was on the job, I would say things that were not popular when it came to my men and women. And I knew that they would give me the cold shoulder sometimes for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they were mad by decisions I made or things that I said. I mean, sometimes we got such great collars. We apprehended some violent perpetrators, and we got the illegal firearm. And I wouldn't even say great job. And I'd say, listen, I'm just glad you guys are okay. And here's the mistakes that you made. You didn't follow the attack plan that I told you to do. And they were sometimes like, what are you talking about, boss? We got the gun. I don't care. You got the gun. I want you home and safe. I want all your fingers and toes. I want you going home to your wives. I want you going home to your husbands. You got the gun by luck and no one got hurt. But if you did the same thing 100 times, eventually someone's going to get hurt and lose their life. So sometimes I would say things, and I would get the cold shoulder for 2 and 3 weeks, but I didn't care. And sometimes they call me today and say, you know what? I want to thank you, boss. I said, I don't even have to call me boss anymore. Come on, it's Eric. And they said, no, we call you boss because we respect you and we thank you. And sometimes we were angry and we didn't see the big picture. Because sometimes the tactics, the system that we built in getting firearms, it took effort, right? Yeah, I would make them get out of the car and 2 or 3 blocks before they actually stopped the perpetrator, and we would come up with a car. And sometimes I would have them running at full speed because the person's throwing the gun. Rather than just pull right up to your adversary and open that car door where you're extremely vulnerable. I didn't allow laziness. I didn't allow incompetence. Competence breeds confidence, and I wanted them to be safe. So, you know what? If sometimes I had to get the cold shoulder, so be it. So be it. Because I knew I could lay down and say, you know what? I did the right thing by these men and women. I did the best of my ability so that they go home safe. It didn't matter to me if they loved me at that moment. What mattered to me is that the people that loved them at home, that they were able to go home to them. And that was important to them. So even today, being coined as the most complained cop, I own it. And you know what? I'm proud of it, because every time I look at those CCRBs and people want to try to smear my name and slander it, I know behind the context of that civilian complaint was an adversary, a violent perpetrator that was apprehended. Men and women made that apprehension with me or without me, and they're home safe, and they're there to tell the story. They could tell that story because they have all their fingers and toes, and their husbands and wives are thankful that they came home.
So, I know a lot of critics are going to watch this show. I know a lot of people are going to sit here and say, well, you guys are the biggest hypocrites because you're saying that you could change your foundational beliefs. You could change your religion like that and it'd be solid. But Eric Adams could never backpedal on what he says. And I never said that at all. Eric Adams could actually change and actually maybe become MAGA. Actually maybe believe that the borders should remain closed. Unlike how a few weeks ago, he said the borders should remain open. He could actually maybe think that it's a good idea to deport people who commit crimes in this country who are here illegally, which is different from what he said 3 days ago, where he said him, John Shell, everyone else and their mother for the last 3 years have been telling you these people have been paroled into the country and they're here legally and they have constitutional rights. But maybe Eric Adams seen the light. Just happened to happen after he got indicted, and it happened to happen after Donald Trump won the election. It's possible. 100%. But the difference between what we're talking about and Eric Adams is Eric Adams has not admitted he was wrong on anything. Eric Adams has not even admitted that those were his beliefs. When you listen to Eric Adams speak, what does he say? I was always saying this. What they're saying is what I'm saying. My favorite news station, Fox. It's like you had been dogging them for 3 years, saying that they're not even media. Now, all of a sudden, they're your favorite news station. You were saying they were putting out misinformation and should be shutting down. Now they're your favorite news station. I'm saying that they probably are your favorite news station because they're great at gaslighting people and they actually don't report the news. The king of gaslighting and low information people. Yeah. So them like CNN and MSNBC, I'm sure are all your favorite media stations, Eric. But he hasn't repented for one thing. He hasn't said he was wrong about one thing. He's actually lying and saying he's always believed this. He's always thought this. He's always thought the border should remain closed. He's always thought that criminals should get deported. No, he hadn't. No, John Shell hadn't. What were they telling us? They were telling us, that after their court case. Do you remember that? We did a whole episode on that. After your court case. So after years and years and years, and by the way, John Shell admitted that most of the people that stole cars in 2023, only 2% of them, 2.4% of them actually got convicted. So they knew they'd dumb down and they knew no one would ever get deported. But now all of a sudden he changed his mind. And yeah, he could change his mind. He has that right. We all have a right. But he didn't change his mind. He's lying to us and telling us this is what I always believed. People that changed their mind said, yeah, this was me then, and this is me now. This is what I'm saying now. I was wrong. That's not Eric Adams. Eric Adams is full of shit.
He is full of shit. And I will reflect on what you said and piggyback on it in a sense that I don't even think he has to say he's wrong, but he has to explain why he changed his stance. You're allowed to change your stance. You're allowed to change your position. But what he should tell New York City residents is say, well, at the time, I supported open borders and I supported sanctuary city. And here's why I supported open borders. And here's why I supported sanctuary cities. And it was conducive for the city at the time. And now I've learned along the way, it's something that's not sustainable. We can't handle it. It's out of control. It's costing us so much money. It's hurting New York City residents. We've also allowed the spoils of prisons from South America to come into this country. We now have Tren de Aragua emerge in New York City along with other areas of this country. We have a problem with robberies. We have a problem with recidivists. And I realized and I learned that we have to stop this. And I support the borders to be closed. And I support sanctuary city law to be removed. And I support working with federal partners because we did not get the overwhelming majority that are here are not necessarily here for a better life. We've allowed the spoils to come into our country and it's hurting us. That's not what we're hearing. We're just hearing him flip-flop. And that's the other problem. He's not flip-flopping his stance to where he stands strong and believes something. What do we say all the time, John? We don't know what he's for or what he's against. One day he's for open borders. The next day he wants borders closed. The next day he's for open borders again. The next day he's for closed borders. So he panders to the Democrats one day. He panders to Republicans one day. One day he's pandering to Biden because he wants a pardon from Biden. One day he's pandering to Trump because he sees himself getting a pardon from Trump because it's all about Eric. And that's the problem. I think you can change your position. You can change your stance. You can change your opinion. We're evolving. We're humans. Things change. As things evolve, we change. And if we don't change, we're not human, and that's not normal. We should all change. I mean, think about it, John. You yourself, you have changed significantly. So have I. I am not the same person I was at 20. I'm not saying I'm better or worse, but I'm different. I've evolved, and I've learned. But I tell you one thing, I'm wiser. And same thing for you, John. You're not the same person either. And nobody's the same. We grow, we evolve. That's why sometimes marriages and relationships don't necessarily always work. And it's not always fairy tales and roses because people, they're here at the same length together on the parallel. And as they grow and evolve, they go in different directions. Sometimes they grow together. Sometimes they grow apart. And that's normal. People change. And so should your beliefs. And that's why I'm saying if there's a mandate comes out and you make the determination at that point that, you know what, I believe in this and I change my opinion, so be it.
You know, the other thing is, and the other thing is that I think is like completely laughable is oh shit, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, I looked at my phone. Crap, I forgot what the hell I was going to ask. I forgot what the hell I was going to say. It was about the mandate. Oh, yeah, okay. So the other thing I was going to say is, so there's all this fear in the air. There's a pandemic that they're telling you is so deadly. Everyone's afraid. People are locked in their house. Most people are locked in your house. And they're telling you at that moment that you didn't find God. You couldn't find God at that moment. I mean, I think a lot of people, you know, there's a song when, you're going to find God at some point in your life. Like when things are bad, people pray, you know, when, you know, something goes bad, people pray, people find God at bad times in their life. I think we could all safely say that 2020, the pandemic, was a bad time in all of our lives. I think we could all say that. And I think a lot of people found religion. You know, I was always faithful, but that time really brought me closer to God, like where I, you know, like very close. And to sit there and say that people at that point don't become faithful, fall back on their religion that they were raised, it's abhorrent. I mean, not only it's illegal. Like let's scrap that. Like it's illegal. I'm not saying that it's evenly. I'm not trying to even defend them that. Oh, but like just think about how disgusting that is in a city where they tell you we respect everybody's opinion. Eric Adams says it all the time. If you can't work, you're exploited. We respect everybody. We welcome everybody. You can't find God. You can't find God. Well, I'm saying right now, Eric didn't find MAGA. He's full of crap. Let's listen to this video real quick. I pulled it down. Let's listen to this video real quick. This just comes out from the Democrat, Benny Johnson, the guy that steals everybody's content.
The long-term impact of what we did to this city is you're going to see it materialize in administrations in the future. They hurt the future of New York City. And when people hear me say $6.4 billion, they may say, well, okay, it's just $1 billion here, $1 billion there. No, we didn't invest in seniors the way we should have, and young people the way we should have. We're not going after get these chronic absentee students the way we should have. The crimes that we witnessed, this impacted our city, and people don't seem to understand. Why were you fighting so hard for this? Because I reflected on that 11-year-old boy that was denied, and I went into government to stop these 11-year-old boys, and I came up with a plan to do so, and the federal government made me take $6.4 billion out of providing these services that we all should be angry at what happened to our city under this administration. The long-term.
The Biden of Brooklyn takes a big stance against Joe Biden. Wow, I'm shocked.
You know, listen, and that's the bottom line. Could he do that? Do I fault him if he said, you know what? I called myself the Biden of Brooklyn, and here's why. At the time, I saw myself aligning with him. Things changed. Obviously, he changed his stance, and therefore I changed my stance as well. He didn't say that. He's just manipulating and twisting and weaving everything together to make it sensible for him. And that's why I say, sometimes I know you say he's a moron, and he is, but he's a political genius. He knows how to play the game. He knows how to manipulate it. He manipulates it in such a manner that if some reason, God forbid, Trump said, you know what, I don't want to be president anymore, he would be able to manipulate it right back. And that's what he does. He's a chameleon. And for that, that's why we always say he's the best character, because no one else could do what he does. Honestly, it's not because he's brilliant, because he's a street hustler. He's a savvy street hustler. And he managed to transition that into politics.
Yeah. So shout out to Dave Savella. This was hysterical. I had to just put this out because I was skimming to get the next thing, but this is hysterical. Shout out to Dave Savella. This is from yesterday. This is when we had a little issue. What do you think about this portion? Anything here?
I was proud of Kaz that he knew those stats. He had those stats somewhere. He made sure he spit them out so quick. 1,126, because those stats he knew. He knows the stats of recidivism, but he doesn't know the stats that crime is up.
This critical message is being delivered by the emergency alert system. This is not a test. We interrupt regular scheduled programming to notify you of an imminent threat to public safety.
Oh, shit. We still on?
Oh, my God.
I copyrighted. Shit. I think I
got kicked off?
Yeah, I think so. I think we just got kicked off.
That's all right. We made it this far.
That was hysterical. Thank you for that. That was hysterical.
Shout out to Dave Savella. Shout out Scooch. Check him out on X. That was outstanding. I laughed so hard when I saw it. I think I must have played it 1,000 times. Awesome, Scooch. Shout out to your brother. Love it. I think Kaz Daughtry probably liked himself. I mean, I guarantee you everybody on the job is laughing. That is awesome. If he's not laughing himself, he's got some serious problems.
Oh, it's crazy, dude. It's nuts, man. It is absolutely insane. But yeah, he said a lot of things yesterday, Eric Adams. You know, he talked about picking cotton too yesterday, and nobody brought that up. He was telling someone about how he was picking cotton, and nobody acknowledged his family was picking cotton, and nobody acknowledges that. I'm like, oh yeah, no, not racist at all. He's going back to how he treated the old lady back in the day. Then no one says anything. No one says anything to him. He gets away with murder, this dude. It's like the amount of times he makes racist, inflammatory statements. It's insane. You know, it's completely insane. Let's look at a little bit at Eric Adams, though. I got a couple more tweets from the people who decided they wanted to work for the SS. But let's look at Eric Adams. Is this up on the screen? Yeah. This is Eric Adams pre-indictment, pre-Donald Trump winning the election. This is him in front of the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce. Let's see what he's got to say.
We know the influx of 40,000 asylum seekers that are coming to New York. and one tried to politicize this issue, but it's coming from Colorado, from Texas, from Florida, coming to our city. We have always been a place where we welcome immigrants of different walks of life. This is, in fact, a city of immigrants, but responsible national policies must be put in place as we deal with the important issues that we are facing as a city. And then we have to be very clear. We had a summit at Gracie Mansion and spoke with many of our chain stores. We know.
So it's not that the borders need to be closed. It's not that people need to be deported. The problem is Governor Ron DeSantis and Governor Abbott. That's what he said there.
I remember the speech. John, I actually remember when he gave the speech. You and I were talking about this offline. And he does a great job of manipulating everything and anything. That's what he does. He even manipulated this by not saying anything about open borders, but blaming them for the influx that they're sending them to New York City. But you're the one that put out the welcome mat. You're the one that said this is a sanctuary city. This is a city that's going to provide shelter, food, and jobs. You put out the welcome mat. That's the touchdown for I'm sorry, I was about to say asylum seekers. So not asylum seekers. They're illegal aliens. They're asylum seekers. They wouldn't be going through an open border. They would be going through the immigration process. But this is Eric Adams, and he does a great job of manipulating everything and anything. That's what he does. That's why he's a political genius. That's why he will be Man of the Year. It looks like he's going to survive to January 1st. Again, Eric Adams, Man of the Year for the finest Unfiltered.
Yeah, I mean, this is him. This is Eric Adams. This picture is him. He's two-faced. This is him. One side, he's Donald Trump. The other side, he's Kim Jong-un. Like, he's like, none of it makes sense. Or Xi Jinping, excuse me. He's Communist China, Xi Jinping. This is him. Like, this is exactly who he is. One side of his mouth, he's talking like he's this. The other side of his mouth, he's talking about this. So you never know where he really is. Now he just moved hard right. He moved hard right because he's got it. He's grasping for straws. He's absolutely grasping for straws. And nobody really wants to talk about that. No, I love how the Republican conservative media just jumps on everything they say. Everything this dude says. This is Eric Adams. Want to hear Eric Adams? This is the real Eric Adams. Well, actually, I don't know that this is the real Eric Adams. This is Eric Adams pre-indictment. This is Eric Adams pre-Donald Trump winning the election. Today, I was proud to join Y. Dennis in calling on city council to revisit legislation that would give non-citizen immigrants legally residing in New York the right to vote in municipal elections. When immigrant communities are disenfranchised, we all lose. So he wants illegal immigrants to vote in your elections. But he's MAGA? He should turn Republican, Gavin? What about you, Benny? Benny looks like the real conservative male, Benny Johnson. Yeah. Benny's a real conservative. I know Benny Johnson will hold the line. I feel so safe that men like Benny Johnson live in America. I do. Because he's so brave. He's so conservative.
I love when he says immigrant communities. What is he talking about? You talk about immigrant communities. I cherish, love, and proud that we're a nation of immigrants. He says New York City is a city of immigrants. This is a nation of immigrants. And we're proud of that. I'm not first generation. I'm not first generation. You're not first generation. Our families came here, but they came here through struggle. They came here and they sought asylum. They came here and they became citizens. They came here because they love this country. They didn't come here from the spoils of other countries to create havoc in this country. Not all the immigrants that have crossed the border for that reason, but unfortunately, we have too many people that have crossed this border to commit crimes in this nation, to create wealth in this nation off the backs of Americans that come from the spoils of jails in South America and other places in this world that are not here for a better life. They're here to destroy the life that we know. And Eric Adams is a part of that. There's blood in this country from Trent Aragua. There's blood in this country from the spoils of jails. And that blood's on Eric Adams also. Not supporting New York City workers by discarding them. Who's disenfranchised? How about those that didn't come to the mandate, they're disenfranchised. But yet he wants to support illegal aliens because it's votes for Eric Adams.
Could you imagine? This is who they're telling to make a Republican. He wants people, and this is the Republican establishment in New York. This is the Republican establishment in New York saying this. This is why I say that they're progressive like. Could you imagine Republicans backing this? I mean, here's another one. Yeah, Benny Johnson, all them, DC Drano, they all stole this from me when I put it out, right? Put this out, boom. I was the first. I didn't get it from Forbes. I put this out. I was the first person to drop this. I was watching this live. I dropped it. Boom. That thing went viral, right? Here's Eric Adams. Let's hear what Eric Adams got to say. This is pre-indictment Eric Adams, pre-Donald Trump Eric Adams.
We believe the borders should remain open. That's the official position of the city, but we have made it clear there should be a decompression strategy that we could properly deal with the volumes that's coming into our city, and no cities should have to carry the burden of the national government.
October 3rd, 2023. Pre-MAGA Eric. The border should remain open. Right before he went on his trip to Mexico. Right before it. Border should remain open.
That was a complete dig at Abbott in Texas. That was a complete dig at DeSantis. That's exactly what we're saying. Oh, no city should have to take care of all these people because they're being discarded from other cities and sent to New York City. No, they're not being sent to New York City. You welcomed them to New York City. You invited them. You created the problem. You have too many people at your party because you opened your doors. You didn't have security at your doors, which shows you can't have open borders. You can't have a sanctuary city. This blanket of protection is a problem for security. It's a problem for public safety. He talks about prosperity as the key to public safety. What prosperity is there for New York City residents when you bring illegal aliens, and many of them are out there committing crime, robberies that stem from Trend Aragua and other gangs, part of these illegal aliens that are here getting funded with money from New York City government, which hurts New York City residents. And who eventually is going to have to pick up that tab and that bill? New York City residents through congestion pricing, whatever other tax they put on.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And here's him canceling his trip to the border, citing safety concerns when he's telling you the border should remain open. He's telling you Ron DeSantis and Governor Abbott are the problem. It's not Joe Biden. It's not Joe Biden. Joe Biden, no, the border should remain open. We just need a decompression strategy to deal with the volumes, right? That's MAGA Eric. That's Republican Eric. That's who the Republicans in New York City are trying to paint you as a moderate, right? Here's Eric Adams again. How did Eric Adams feel about criminals? How did he feel about criminals? Let's see how Eric Adams felt about criminals. From last night's debate, this is again pre-indictment Eric Adams. This is pre-Donald Trump winning the election. This is June 3rd, 2021. We need to ensure that undocumented immigrants receive health care and protection. That ICE is never, I want to repeat that again, never in a position to partner with the police department and harm them. We also need to make sure we treat them with respect and the dignity they deserve. What does never mean? That means if they rape you, if they murder your mother, if they break into your home, if they rape little children, if they traffic little children. Never means never. That is the person you guys are telling to be a Republican. He wants illegals to vote in your elections. He wants them to never be deported, regardless of what they do. This is the person that you want?
John, it's obvious. It's obvious in New York State, it's a one-party rule. That's the bottom line. The lines are blurred. At this point, you can't tell who's Democrat. You can't tell who's Republican. Somehow they met at the middle, and not for better, to make America great again, not to make New York State great again, not to make New York City great, but their one-party rule. It's to make their pockets great. That's what this comes down to. Abed, shout out to you. $19.99 to the podcast. Coffee and Donuts, great friend to the podcast. Computer Whiz, shout out to you. He says that Patrick Donahue, which is great, another great guy. Juju located, the 17th booster Word has designed, with Juju resting comfortably in ICU. John and Eric are respected 10 times more than any of the chocolate brass. Shell equals honorary chocolatier by waistline. Not just waistline, but by neckline. Look at his triple fat neck. That triple fat neck says retirement. For every time you get a fat neck, I think it's a key indication it's time to retire. Now he's got a triple fat neck, so 3 times over he should have went to 233 Broadway. So shout out to you, Arbed. Really appreciate it. Coffee and Donuts, we love it. This is a great conversation. It's got to be said. It's got to be said more often. People aren't allowed to change. They're allowed to evolve. But what are those changes for? What are your values? Honestly, at this point, do we even know who Eric Adams is? We don't know, right? Honestly, we don't know. Is he the pre-indictment Eric Adams? Is he the post-indictment? Who is Eric Adams? We really don't know. And we said this even before Trump was elected. We don't know what he's for or against because he constantly flip-flops when it benefits himself. That's the bottom line. Who is Eric? So you know what, John? I want to ask you, who do you think the real Eric is? Do you think it's the pre-indictment, post-indictment, or do you think it's something else?
I think Eric Adams is a snake in its truest form. I think he's a politician in truest form. He's a shapeshifter. He doesn't need anybody. It's all about Eric. Eric could be a Republican today. He could be a conservative tomorrow. He could be a left-wing liberal the next day. Follow the money, baby. That's who Eric Adams is. Eric Adams' soul is for sale at the highest bidder. The most gain for Eric Adams, that's who Eric Adams is. Eric Adams is a puppet who will mouth anything he's told to say or do. What he's doing now is attempting to latch on with the in crowd, gaslight the low information people, and that's exactly what he's doing. Here's Eric Adams again. What does Eric Adams have to say about sanctuary cities? We should protect our immigrants, period. Yes, New York City will remain a sanctuary city under an Adams administration. Hashtag Eric on NBC. Pre-indictment Eric, pre-Donald Trump. That's who Eric Adams is. We don't know who he is. Eric Adams is a snake in its purest form.
I think we're going to have to give Eric Adams a new birth date. It should be Eric Adams BT before Trump, and it should be Eric Adams AT after Trump, because Eric Adams is born again. He's a new man now as he's MAGA. You know what?
AT, baby. Eric Adams AT.
John, we have to honor him. If he makes it to January 1st, and it sure looks like it, I've been saying this all along, he's Man of the Year. So we're going to have to come up with some type of gift for Eric Adams. Man of the Year, who helped grow this podcast. He gives us great content. So, honestly, who else could survive? I mean, former retired Chief Boyce, he strongly stated, and he's also an ABC news anchor who provides police perspective to the news anchors for ABC. He said strongly that Ed Caban, former police commissioner, had to step down because his phone was removed and he was raided, and the appearance is enough. He needs to step down. But Eric Adams is surviving an indictment as the mayor and potentially could survive long enough to run again. Brother.
Broke up a little bit at the end. What'd you say, dude?
I did. I broke up. Oh, whatever. Listen, I say Eric Adams is the Man of the Year. He survived. If he survives to run again, no one else could pull that off. Former retired Chief Boyce said Ed Caban had to step down, and yet Eric Adams can survive an indictment and possibly run again. That's impressive.
Yeah, well, I not only is Eric going to run again, I mean, he's the front runner. Who have the Democrats put up that is going to beat Eric Adams? Nobody. Who have the Republicans put up that's going to beat Eric Adams? Nobody. He's the front runner. Not only will he run again, he'll win. Yeah, he's 100%. He's already the Man of the Year. We might as well start making the shirts and get the award made and put the grave on. He's winning that award. He's got He's got only a couple days to go. 3 weeks, he's man of the year, 100%. We're men of all words. He's not man of the year for any good reasons, but he's man of the year. So, but it's funny that you asked this question, who Eric Adams is, because this was what I put out this morning. I put it out on Instagram with a Navajo song with it. So once upon a time, a woman was picking up firewood. She came upon a poisonous snake frozen in the snow. She took the snake home. She nursed it back to health. One day, the snake bit her on the cheek. As she lay dying, she asked the snake, "Why have you done this to me?" And the snake answered, "Look, bitch, you knew I was a snake." What movie is that from, Eric?
Outstanding. But I saw you read that this morning. That's impressive that came to your mind. Do
you remember the movie?
I'm trying to remember the name. I know the movie. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Natural Born Killers.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
They're sitting with
I knew it was
the old Indian man. He's telling him.
Yes, no, I remember.
That's Eric Adams to me. That's Eric Adams to me.
Someone put the crying game. But yeah.
Well, the crying game, that went on a different meme. That was a different meme. I put that song on a different meme.
Yeah. No, that steak story, Stephen S. just said it. That steak story is a classic. Absolutely. It's funny, right? Because Woody Harrelson, the actor in that movie, also put on a great skit when he talked about COVID, right? He said, "Oh, the cartels came and all this crazy stuff." It's funny how things work and they kind of weave into each other. But yeah, that's a good post, brother.
Yeah, but that's who he is, dude. Like, that's exactly who he is. That's what came to my mind. Like, who's Eric Adams? He's the snake. He's the snake. He's hurting right now. He's like, "Oh, please, I'm trapped in the ice." He said he literally said at the press conference. I don't know if anybody's remember the magazine cover. It was a long time ago that it was Muhammad Ali when he had all the arrows shot in him over his political stances. That's what Eric Adams was trying to claim that he was. I feel just like Muhammad Ali. I have all these arrows in me. It's like, you know what? Maybe if you didn't take any bribes, maybe if you didn't defraud taxpayers out of millions of dollars, maybe if you weren't a snake rat, you wouldn't have all those problems, Eric. So nobody feels bad for you. You're not taking a political stance. You're not a political target. You're a criminal. Dude, you've been investigated before you even ran for office. This investigation just didn't spark. It didn't just spark because he said something one time like Benny Johnson and the rest of you phony Republicans want to say. That's not how it happened. He's been being investigated his whole life. We played it for you here. Andrew Yang during the debate says you have the perfect trifecta. You've been investigated by the federal government, the state government, and local city officials, and over corruption charges, and every office you ever held. And we don't expect any different when you're the mayor. And Andrew Yang nailed it. He was 100% right.
Well, the gods have come. Juju's back. So thank you, Juju. You missed about an hour and 40 minutes, but it's okay. It's recording. You can jump in later when you're on overtime. So, shout out to Memes, New York's finest retired Unfiltered podcast. Our memes tell stories. The memes make themselves. The bottom line is memes are humorous because they tell a story. And in every joke, there's some truth to it. So, John, want to read it out?
Sure. So there's Juju up top. Mr. Melkowski, I decided over breakfast that I'm Tanya now. And Mr. Melkowski in this meme says, "Who are we to question your beliefs, Tanya or Juju?" So this is how to approve religious accommodation in the NYPD. Now here's a cop, man, probably a Christian male. "It's been a traumatic year. I started going back to church." "We don't believe you. Take the jab." And there's the transcripts. So that's it. The memes tell the stories. The memes make themselves. This was the meme we put out with the crying game. We got a lot more coming. There's a lot more problems that need to be corrected in New York City. And there's a lot of things that need to come to light. Who's this? Thomas Dunn. Elon Musk has done a lot more than you. Yeah, he has. He voted for Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, and I didn't. You're right. He has. He's done a lot. He's done a lot to help this country go the way it has. You're right. He's done a lot. Elon Musk done a lot of good things. But could Elon Musk answer why I'm still shadow banned on X? Could Elon Musk answer why I could get frivolous copyright claims that aren't even true from people who aren't the copyright holders, and I have no absolute way to defend them? Could Elon Musk answer any of those questions? I know he was the great savior and he saved free speech, but yet I don't feel like my speech is free, and I feel like my Twitter is being kept in a box for some reason. Oh, maybe because it is. Oh, maybe because it is. So weird. So make speech free again. Open up Twitter. Let's go. Let speech be free.
John, there's a question for you by Matt O'Brien, $1.99 to the podcast, coffee and donuts. We appreciate it. John, excuse me, John, obviously you're in Florida, but if you were in New York, will you now vote for Curtis if he runs? You know, that's a good question, John. If you were in New York, would you? I know the answer. I already know your answer, but would you vote?
Who else would I vote for? Am I going to vote for who the hell else am I going to vote for? I'm going to vote for Brad Landa. I'm going to vote for Eric Adams. Of course, I would vote for Curtis, but it's a losing vote. Of course, I would vote for Curtis. But I know that the Republican establishment in New York City has set Curtis up Sleewood to fail. I know that. They're gonna fund Eric Adams higher than they're gonna fund Curtis Sleewood. They're gonna hold parties in the Hamptons for Eric Adams while they're telling you to vote for Curtis Sleewood. They're gonna run Curtis. Curtis shouldn't run. I'll be honest with you. Curtis shouldn't run. He's not gonna win. The polls are out there. He's not even close to winning. Shouldn't even run. Would I vote for him if I was in New York City? Absolutely. Absolutely.
John, I got a question for you. If Eric Adams was to run again, and his opponent again is Curtis Sleewood, round 2, who does the PBA, the DEA, SBA, and LBA endorse?
Oh,
or do they do a?
That's an easy one, bro. That is an easy one. Eric Adams gave us this great contract where we stole your health care and retirement. Eric Adams forced all those people who were actually competent so that you could get grade and you could get promoted off the job. So you could actually look like you're good at your job. He forced them all off. Right? Unions are overwhelmingly gonna vote for the indicted New York City Mayor Eric Adams. They're gonna partake in criminal association. They have a big party at the old Reform Concha Fritos, and that's gonna be it. Overwhelmingly, they're gonna endorse him, and they're gonna endorse Kathy Hochul again. I mean, that's not even a question. I think the Republicans aren't going to say nothing about it, and the Republican candidate's not going to say nothing about it. Screw that. It's time to expose these unions. Like I said, a lot of people asking questions if I'm running, if I'm doing anything on here. At this point in my life, I'm not running for anything. But if I ever ran, I will not interview with the police unions. I will interview them to see if I will accept their endorsement. They are part of the Democratic establishment. So is the Republican establishment in New York. I don't need an endorsement from anyone. If I ever run, it's going to be grassroots. I am not going to hold on to the company line like everybody else does.
I think Crazy 10-7 puts it right here. You know, I like Curtis as a person. I think he's comical. I think he showed a lot of fortitude. He's a strong guy. Crazy 10-7 says Curtis is a waste of time. Absolutely. The Republicans are going to backdoor Curtis and back Adams. It's one-party rule. It's Democrats and Republicans all together. They're definitely going to lead towards Eric Adams. So Curtis is a waste of time. It's almost like he's going unopposed. We could pretty much say Eric Adams will win again. And then the question is, would Eric Adams be publicly endorsed by the unions, or would there be, in a sense, by the unions themselves, or would there be an election, as we just saw with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and those results were never released in public? I think they won't. I think they won't do an election. I think it would be an immediate public endorsement for Adams, and there will be no election and no say by the members. Not that there is any say, but that's what I think.
No, I agree with you. I would I'm not arguing with you at all. I think hands down, they're going right. They're going right for him. That's it. They're not. There's nothing that's going to be. There's nothing that's going to. There's no room for debate. And they're going to be like, oh, Eric Adams said to deport people now. Eric Adams is MAGA now. Eric Adams supports all this stuff. You know, it's crazy. You know, this is Eric Adams. This is who Eric. This is who MAGA Eric is. This is the meme of the year. The fact that this meme didn't go viral shows you, because we've had memes go completely viral, but it shows you how controlled media is. Shows you how controlled it is. Everyone saw this meme. Everyone laughed. This meme is not allowed to get traction because it is so true. This is the meme of 2024. This is the meme. This explains Eric Adams. We don't even have to talk about it. Everyone knows this is legit. Whether you agree with us on this podcast or you're in direct opposition to this podcast, you know exactly what that meme is, and you know that that's the truth. Whether you're a far-left anti-police advocate or you're a far-right pro back the blue all the time advocate, you know that this meme is accurate. You know it. We don't even have to say anything. It's so powerful. You don't even have to say anything. Eric Adams with his little hand and his tears in his eyes, sitting on Big Daddy Trump's lap with a tear in his eye. All I want for Christmas is a pardon, Santa. We pair this song on Instagram with All I Want for Christmas by Mariah Carey. Check it out on our Instagram at the Finest Unfiltered. I think it goes lovely. But everyone, do you think there's any person on earth that disagrees with this meme?
I just got to say, before we go into that, there's a comment here by somebody new to the podcast. Thank you, friend who listens to the podcast. Mystic Lock 54. He says, you guys make great points, but you guys beat Eric up too much. The bottom line is we have to beat him up because New York City deserves better. And this is the bottom line. This is who he is. People are scared to call out who Eric Adams is. Eric Adams does not get pressure tested in any form that, as we see in comparison to his predecessors. Think about former Mayor Bill de Blasio, which is an abomination for New York City. But he received far more suppression from the media, more opposition, and he was far more pressure tested in the media, Bill de Blasio, than Eric Adams is. They control the narrative. And that's the point. That's why we have to express it's not beating him up. If it's beating him up, honestly, then he's the one at fault. We always say that the memes make themselves. Well, Eric Adams creates his own criticism because it's mistake after mistake, failure after failure. It's gaslighting the public. And look, I can show you, for instance, I can even explain it right now. If Donald Trump was Jewish, the meme would be Eric Adams playing dreidel with Donald Trump because Eric Adams will do whatever it takes to save Eric Adams. And that's the point. If you feel we're beating him up too much, I think he deserves it. He's a very lucky man. He's indicted, and he's still the mayor, and he has an ability to run again. And he's made it all about himself. He's made a lot of money off private contracts. So why are you feeling sorry for him? He's not feeling sorry for the thousands of police officers and firefighters and New York City service members, teachers, nurses that had to leave their careers because of a mandate. And yet we're feeling sorry for Eric Adams, who's under indictment, who's in a position to help New York City residents, and he's only hurting them because he's helping himself.
Yeah, we beat Eric Adams to us. Wah, wah. Heavy is the head, my friend. Heavy is the head. He wanted to be the mayor. He ran for it. He destroyed thousands upon thousands of people's lives in New York City. He helped grow and increase crime. He took billions of dollars out of New York City coffers and incentivized illegal aliens to come to New York City. Every problem in New York City is facing is a direct problem with him. The buck stops with him. It's been 3 years. He's done absolutely nothing. He's done absolutely nothing. Swag On says, religion doesn't matter. Does that mean an atheist must take the shot because they don't want to adhere to a mainstream religion? So again, like I said, Swag On, this nation was founded on religious freedom. Now, you don't have to believe in a God. Your belief is your belief, and nobody can dictate what your belief is. Your belief is technically your religion. According to the U.S. Constitution, according to the New York State Human Rights Law, according to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title VII, according to OEO policy, according to the OEO law, according to all of those things, you don't have to be part of a mainstream religion. Your belief is your belief. That's why America is the greatest country in the world. Religious freedom. That's why freedom of speech is so important, because it also is freedom of thought. If I can't say what I know to be true, I can't practice my faith. I can't practice my religion. So that's what we're doing here. We're just utilizing our freedom of speech. If Eric can't handle it, Eric shouldn't be the mayor. If Eric wants to right the wrongs, if Eric wants to be MAGA Eric, if he wants to be MAGA, if he wants to make America great again, he could right the wrongs that he did. He could tell us where he went wrong. He could reinstate and compensate the people who he harmed during this tyrannical mandate. That's it. It's that simple. And you know
John,
what?
I don't.
And
First
we
of
can move
all,
on. And we can move on. And we can
Exactly.
save taxpayers millions of dollars. We could all drop our lawsuits and move on. Stop talking about it.
exactly. And you know what's funny, John? Again, here we go. Racist memes, right? We're going to be pointed as racist again. And here's Juju saying it right now. I don't know how you see any racism in this meme. I don't know how you see it. If anything, see it by Eric Adams, because he's the one who'll only beckon down to the white man when it's self-serving for him. Because Juju says John McCarry is on Clayton Bigsby type of time this morning. That's pretty inflammatory, you saying that, Juju. Kind of funny, but that's pretty inflammatory.
Just based upon the way I look. That's it. He's not racist.
Well, listen, I guess he's saying you're a black man. I mean, it kind of goes with what we've been saying. Who is this white man? John, are you white? Who? I mean,
No,
what
I
is
don't
the white
consider
man?
myself. No.
So maybe you're blind. Maybe you're a blind black man.
I mean,
JF.
I said it before. I'm blacker than Eric Adams. I said it
You
before.
said that, right?
Eric Adams is a white limousine, pinky sipping whiskey, not even whiskey, champagne sipping liberal. He wears an ankle bracelet. He goes and gets his nails and his feet done. Who is Eric Adams? Eric Adams represents New York City, hardworking blue collar people. Get that. Eric Adams is walking around in his $10,000 Brioni suits, going to Zero Bond, going to all these places that average New Yorkers couldn't afford. You're going to tell me Eric Adams from the hood? Maybe a long time ago. Eric Adams is a white leftist.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. So, you know what, Juju? We'll actually take it as a compliment, because we don't even know who the evil white man is anymore. You're saying John's a black man? Well, okay, so what? But you say he's blind? Actually, the one who's blind is you, because you won't admit what's going on. You're living yourself a lie. You go to work every day and you have to live a lie. And when that blindfold comes off at home, you have to look in the mirror and face reality. Bum, you're a bum. JF.999 to the podcast. Coffee and donuts. Shout out to you, brother. Thank you so much. Says, good morning, gentlemen. Great show today. I got nothing more to add other than here we go with the what is it again? In my humble opinion, LOL. Listen,
You got it, Eric.
I got it. I'm learning.
I'm
learning. I'm a caveman to social media, but I'm learning. I'll make my way. Thank you very much, brother. We appreciate it.
Yeah. So, all right. So this is Eric Adams, right? One last tweet I want to bring out about from yesterday. Well, actually, a couple of tweets. Before we get off Eric Adams, I want to just highlight something. I saw something that Roger Stone posted this morning. I thought it was hysterical. What did he write? Where is it? I'm missing it. I am missing it. All right. So I'll go back to Eric Adams in a second. I just want to go over to Mark Robinson's post to the mayor. Mark Robinson is an NYPD cop who is now homeless as a result of these mandates. He said, at New York City Mayor, respectfully, can you please explain why my rights were violated with the illegal mandate? My religious exemption was denied and I was forced to vest so I wouldn't be fired and lose what little pension I will receive. New York City law proves it was illegal. And he shows the New York City human rights law, which mirrors so many other laws. And it highlights here. Religious observance. It shall be unlawful discriminatory practice for an employer or an employee agent thereof to impose upon such a person as a condition of obtaining or attaining employment any terms or conditions compliance in which it would require such a person to forego a practice, his or her creed or religion. So shout out to you, Mark Robinson. I'm sorry what happened to you, bro. We're trying to right this ship. And I appreciate you being out online and letting Eric Adams and the world know exactly who Eric Adams is. You know, he sits there, he talks about diversity. He talks about his chocolate administration. But we've just shown you today 2 NYPD cops, Marlon Bethel, who was terminated, an immigrant, thrown out. His good name was stripped from him, his health care, his pay, his everything, his pension, gone. It's all gone. Eric Adams did that. Eric Adams did that right after 2 cops were assassinated. And now we have Mark Robinson, who's homeless as a result of Eric Adams' enforcement of this illegal mandate. And you want me to sit here and say that Eric Adams isn't that bad? Absolutely not. Never happened. Eric Adams needs to repent. Eric Adams needs to undo the harm he did, and then we can forgive and move on.
Eric Adams gives shelter, gives money, gives jobs to illegal military-age males that come across this country through an open border that come from the spoils of jails in South America. And yet, Mark, a former NYPD police officer, only former because of this mandate, can't get money from the city, can't get a job from the city, can't get shelter from the city. Mark gets squat like many others. Marlon gets squat, discarded, treated worse than a second-class citizen. Veterans are discarded. Former police officers, anyone that doesn't coincide with Eric Adams is discarded. This is disgusting. If anyone thinks we're picking on Eric Adams too much, well, you haven't seen. We haven't even just got started. Bottom line is, he is an epic fail for the city, for the residents of New York City. He calls himself the king of New York City. He says he's reigning as the mayor. You're not supposed to reign. You're supposed to run. You're supposed to serve the people, not serve yourself. So I don't have a problem being critical of Eric Adams. Criticism is the truth. And if that's beating someone up, then so be it.
Absolutely. We have not yet begun to fight, my friends. This is just getting started. We're just getting warmed up. So here is Roger Stone. Saw this morning. He posted this at 1 o'clock in the morning last night. Developing. Indicted New York City Mayor Eric Adams has funneled hundreds of thousands of dollars to so-called Republicans in New York City to simp for a pardon from President Trump for the corrupt mayor. You know who you are. Love it, Roger. Good stuff. Roger Stone, guest of the Finest Unfiltered, friend of the Finest Unfiltered, good friend to our friend Sal Greco, who, by the way, Eric Adams fired because he was a Trump supporter and friends with Roger Stone. But yet, Republicans are calling for Eric Adams to run for mayor as a Republican. Yet Republicans, guys like the big bad Benny Johnson, the hero, the American patriot warrior, the person who looks like a blue-collar worker, the person who represents the American male, strong male, Benny Johnson, because he's simping for Eric Adams, you guys are all going to get on board. I'm not. I'm going to say Benny Johnson was always a Democrat, and I'm not shocked by it.
Well, I just hope. Listen, I don't wish bad on anybody. I don't wish anyone death. I don't wish anyone prison time. But I do wish people rehabilitation. So if Eric Adams is guilty of these charges, he should be convicted, and he should do his time, or whatever fine, whatever they decide is his punishment. He should pay his debt to society. And I hope that Trump doesn't just give him a pardon, because he said the jail is open in Rikers. It was open for Trump. Pre-indictment, Eric Adams and pre-Donald Trump being elected, Eric Adams was all rah, hoorah, ready to put Donald Trump right in Rikers, proud of it. But now Eric Adams takes a complete different stance. How can you feel sorry for someone like this? How can you feel sorry that was toting and wishing someone else to go to jail, and now that same person is trying to get a pardon from? What do they say? The toes that you step on today is the foot that goes in your ass tomorrow? Well, that's Eric Adams. And that's what's happening right now. And you ever watching this feeling bad for Eric Adams? I don't feel bad for him at all. I feel bad for New York City residents that are going to face congestion pricing. I feel bad for New York City residents that don't want to go to 42nd Street anymore to take their families when they come visit New York because of Trent Aragra, because of robberies that are committing, because of quality of life. I feel bad for New York City residents that don't want to go on the subways anymore, that have to deal with mentally ill. I feel bad for New York City residents that live throughout the 5 boroughs and that are asking themselves, why am I still here? Why am I still here? If I wasn't tied to this job, I would go to better pastures and find somewhere else in this country to live. That's who I feel bad for, not Eric Adams.
Unbelievable. All right, let's do one more post. All right, Sal Greco show. Before we do that, Sal Greco show. Make sure when done here, go over the Sal Greco show. Show them out. Check him out. At the Sal Greco show on YouTube. On the latest episode of the Sal Greco show, I break down Eric's press conference and shed light on his cronyism. Also, John Macari may be the hero New York City needs. I appreciate it, Sal. I love you, brother. I'm no hero. I'm just a bum like the rest of us, right? We need to come together. We're gonna forge forward. We're gonna expose exactly what's going on. I appreciate you. Sal actually covers my lawsuit as well in his latest episode, so definitely get out there, check him out. I don't know. His amount of followers should mirror what we have, and we're hoping one day to build this channel bigger, and actually maybe Sal could host a show on here as well. We're looking to get more content coming on here in the future. We're working on that stuff. We'll be working on in 2025. So shout out to Sal Greco. We're going on 2 hours. This is something that there's a meme going to be coming out a little while about this. We're working on this now. So here was another part of the thread, and there'll be more of this thread continuing in the days and the months following, even into Christmas. I'm excited. And I'm excited because I feel the awakening. I feel people are waking up. I feel the people that were harmed, the people that saw their family harmed. I feel it's time. The time is now. It's now or never. We're either going to right this injustice or we're going to doom our children to have to deal with this. We have to change what happened in New York City. I'm a forgiving person. Like I said, I have no hate in my heart. I don't hate Eric Adams. Eric Adams is welcome in my home to come sit down with me and have a cup of coffee. But he will answer my questions. And I will tell him exactly why I believe he's a piece of shit. Because that is how I feel in my heart. I believe Eric Adams is a complete piece of shit for what he has done. And I'll tell him exactly why. And he can voice why he could tell me I'm wrong. And I'm fine with it. But I do believe that he should face the same amount of punishment and the same justice that every single one of us faced. We were given zero due process. Eric Adams is getting way more due process than any of us got. We got 7 days. We didn't even get 7 business days, Eric. When did you hear of New York City not allowing you 7 business days? By the way, which is completely illegal. We're supposed to get 7 business days to make decisions. But even that the unions didn't stand up for. We got 7 days. Never heard of, never seen before, and it was almost a screw you. Eric Adams didn't have 7 days. Eric Adams has been indicted for how many months now? He's still the mayor. Still the mayor. So this is the last thing. Get your thoughts on this, Eric. So New York City's mandate thread. Sonny was right. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Below are the transcripts from a deposition of then NYPD Inspector Kenneth Perez. These transcripts are from an active lawsuit against the NYPD brought by an NYPD officer who was denied a religious exemption. As per the transcript, the attorney who works for New York City Corporation Counsel Kathleen Linane, representing the city, stated to the office's attorney, "It's why you keep losing them all. It is because nobody gives a shit." After the officer replied to her that he cared, he actually went on further to state how his wife cared, how he's the sole provider for his family, his children care. And then the attorney for New York City said, "You do care, but the judges don't. They don't want to waste time on the docket." The complete unprofessionalism and lack of empathy from New York City towards victims of discrimination could not be more apparent. This attorney, by the way, was actually also promoted after this time. What do you think about that, Eric? A New York attorney representing New York saying nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares you lost your job. Nobody cares that you can't feed your family while they're spending $5 billion to feed illegal immigrants. We don't care that you serve New York City. We don't care how much taxes you paid to this city. We're going to give your money to illegal invaders because that's what the mayor said. And you're not going to get the money you're entitled to. And you're not going to get your job back.
I think he's right. I think he's saying exactly what was the nomenclature of this mandate. If you don't want to agree to the mandate, we don't care what happens to you. We'll get rid of you like a spinning top. We don't care what happens to you. We don't care where you go. We don't care what's your next meal. We don't care about you. So he's actually telling the truth. They don't care. And that's why he was promoted, because he spoke the truth. They really don't care. That's the bottom line. I think he's right in the sense of telling the truth. He's completely wrong what he did, but that's exactly what was happening, and that's him telling the truth. JF Dodd, shout out to you. Coffee and donuts, $1.99. That's the second time hitting up the podcast today. We appreciate it. Benny J has the test levels of a soybean farm. Absolutely. Not a man at all. But that's what this comes down to, John. He's telling the truth. They don't care. They don't care what your next meal is. They care about the illegal aliens because it's private contracts people can make money off. If they could have made money off you or me or someone else, it'd be a different story. But there's no benefit. You don't benefit them. That's the bottom line. They don't care. You're just a number. You're not even a number. You're worse than a number. You're something on the bottom of someone's shoe.
Wow. So right before we get off, Sal Greco, sorry I missed this, Sal. I'm just saying this now. We're a little bit back on the chat. United Healthcare CEO was just shot and killed in broad daylight in Manhattan. I thought NYPD, and Eric said New York City is the safest big city in America. Holy crap. Middle of broad daylight in Midtown Manhattan, the CEO of United Healthcare was fatally shot. That sounds to me like a professional hit. What do you think? Initial thoughts. We'll read the post. What initial thoughts right now, Eric? What do you think? Random act of violence or a hit job?
No, he's definitely targeted. There's no doubt in my mind that's a targeted homicide. Absolutely, we've seen acts like that before. Who it was, I mean, I don't know if it's a lover's quarrel, someone he terminated. Is there something nefarious behind closed doors? I don't know anything about him. I don't know anything about it, but that's a complete targeted hit. Absolutely. Especially during the day in that manner. And no shots fired anywhere else. Pretty much execution style. Absolutely. That is a targeted hit. So hopefully we get the details of the starts to unfold. Tragic and sad, but definitely targeted. I'm sure you agree, John. Am I right?
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. So this happens at 7 a.m. in the morning. Apparently, there's nothing in the article about whether they believe it's targeted or not. Shooters not found, but that sounds that middle of Midtown Manhattan. But again, Sal's right. How could you just walk up, even a professional hitman? Thought New York City was the safest big city in America. This is something like that the Sparks when they killed Paul Castellano and Tommy Bilotti. It's a hit. It happened in New York City then. Obviously New York City wasn't as safe as it is now. Well, supposedly.
And if you notice lately, we're starting to see a trend also. Many of the heinous acts that we've seen lately, they happen during the day. A homicidal, mentally ill maniac went from west to east along Manhattan and took the lives of 3 innocent people in broad daylight. We have a targeted hit in broad daylight. We have numerous acts happening in broad daylight because the holes of public safety are prevalent in New York City. John Shell wants to talk about perception versus reality. Perception is reality. If your perception that New York City is the perils of war right now, you're absolutely right, because you can't even walk in broad daylight. It's a mess. It's a disaster. The data reflects the truth, and Sam Antar puts out on a constant basis. And perception is reality. And the reality is New York City is not the safest big city. We can see it right now. The data shows crime is up, not the gaslighting, the sell of a bad product that we're getting right now from this administration and continuing right now with the new police commissioner. She started already in office, in her appointment, already gaslighting the public with crime is down. Crime is not down. She claims it's down in 10 months. You can see it. We can go through various heinous crimes right now that have been happening in broad daylight in New York City, in a metropolis like New York City. To pull off a targeted hit like that is insane. Naked Coffee, shout out to you, $10. That's right. Coffee and donuts. Here we go. Stay on for extra 10 fellas. I just got here. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We're 2 hours and 10 minutes. 2 hours and 10 minutes into it. I will say this before we go. Naked Coffee, shout out. Free Daniel Penny. We talk about patriots, true Americans, people that care. Free Daniel Penny. That's what we need. We need more Daniel Pennies out there. Not these mentally ill, psychotic people that are out there committing crimes, illegal military-age males that come from the spoils of jails in South America. And Daniel Penny, who was a United States Marine, served his country, was a good Samaritan, is fighting for his life. This is the upside down world.
That's, it's actually a good segue. Let's stay on for a couple of minutes. We appreciate it. Naked Coffee, love the name, by the way. As long as it's women Naked Coffee, I don't want to pitch it myself or anybody else naked. Especially John Shell, who would V.S. Venturas call him the Lord of Chins. Yeah, I don't want to picture that. No men naked, thanks. So Eric Adams actually defended Daniel Penny yesterday too. Moves away from me and Alvin Bragg's vision of public safety as one and the same. Very strange. What are your predictions, Eric? What do you think? I mean, Penny's facing a long time in jail. You think the jury's find him guilty? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
I'm praying to God. That there's still some sanctity left in our justice system, that Daniel Penny will be found not guilty. I think that Eric Adams taking his stance that he did right now, being MAGA Eric, actually helps a little bit. We know that no longer is our justice system blind. It's met with politics. Our justice system has been affected with politics. It's exactly what Eric Adams said. Him and Alvin Bragg are one. So remember that for the cops that are out there. When you think he supports you, Eric Adams supports himself. He says he aligns with Alvin Bragg. He put the same judge. He appointed the same judge that let someone walk free, hurting a New York City cop. This is what we have out there right now. This is what we have under Eric Adams. But I pray for Daniel Penny. I say to Daniel Penny, Semper Fi, stand strong, and I pray that there is some sanctity in this justice system. Not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. I'm saying he's not guilty, and I believe he's going to walk free.
Yeah. My girl Corn Pop, also known as Alexa Jones, says, she says, she actually agreed with you today, Eric, but I don't know what she was talking about. I was too slow on these comments. She was mad at you, but then she agreed with you.
It definitely wasn't about 2A. It had to be something else.
I don't know. We were too slow behind. I could.
Sorry, Corn Pop.
But she says flannel and hat checks out. John probably drives an F-150. I do drive a pickup, but it's not a Ford. I like the Fords. I do. But I drive a Ram. Eric drives a Ford.
I actually got a Chevy. I got a Chevy.
Oh, you got a Chevy. Right.
3500 dually. I got big tires. So yeah, I got a big truck. So I got to pull that trailer, man. I got to pull the RV.
What's that? I love my pickup trucks, bro. I was driving a pickup truck even forever. I've been driving a pickup truck even when I was a cop. I used to get notes on my car in Manhattan.
I love pickups. But I actually got a funny story because, not to get completely off topic, but I always had pickups. But in the back of PSA 7, I used to have a big Chevy Silverado pickup. And I'll never forget, I had it parked in the back of the precinct. And I'm working. I'll never forget, was like 3 a.m. I'm still out in the streets. And just to show you how cars are made today. And I get a call from this young female rookie cop. And she's like, "Hey, Lou." I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, I never even spoke to this girl before. I don't even know how she got my number. She's like, "Can I talk to you?" I'm like, "Yeah, listen, I'm working right now. You know, we're doing. Is everything all right?" I don't know this girl. She's like, "I got a little problem." I'm like, "What happened?" She's like, "I sort of hit your car." I'm like, "My car? It's parked. It's in the back of the precinct." She's like, "I know." She was driving those little small what do we call those little cars? Those smart cars?
Smart cars, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how, but she was in the back of the precinct with the smart car and somehow rammed into the front of my car.
Came out of nowhere.
And put a giant dent in it. So I'll never forget, I got back to the command. I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this smart car put such a dent in my front my front panel." But man, she did damage to my truck. Well, anyway, I got to fix the next day. What are you gonna do? It's just property. But she never offered to help pay the deductible. I know she was a rookie, but no, I paid the deductible out of my own pocket. But I wasn't gonna ask her about it. All right, cost me $500 to never speak to her.
Yeah, that's it. $500. Let's say you got rid of it. Juju says, "John, when was the last time you went to church? Don't lie." I haven't been to church in a month, 4 weeks. Usually go to church. However, like I said, I've had an issue with the Roman Catholic Church since this all happened. They turned their back on me. The minute the lockdowns happened, I went with a bundle of cash to my church. I walked in. I put it anonymously in the drop box because I figured that the church was going to hurt because they need donations, right? That's how they make their money, from the donation. And I'll never forget the look that the priest gave me for walking in the church unmasked. And I sat in the back of the pew and I went to pray, and he was putting mass on in front of a camera. No one was allowed in the church. And then in the preceding conversations I had with the church about the mandate, I feel that they've moved away from the teachings of the Bible. I've been saying it for years. They're the church of the world. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in the teachings of the Bible. And in the teachings of the Bible said there, you are not of the world. If you were of the world would love you as its own. But as it is, I have pulled you out of the world, and therefore the world hates you like it hated me. Remember, the world hated me first. And that's exactly how I feel about it. So if for people that don't go to church, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't mean to me that you're religious. And for people that do go to church, it doesn't mean to me that you're religious either. I went to church for years, and I've sat in the pew and I saw all these people come to church, and they look perfect, and their children look perfect, and they pray perfectly, and they're up to date with every way that the church changes the prayers, and they know everything. And to me, when I interact with them in regular day life, I'm like, wow, these people are really horrible people. And they're really horrible. Like, they're not nice people. They're not. They're like, and they're people that are going to run you over the minute mass is over. They're running out. You're walking out with your elderly mother-in-law or your disabled child, and they're looking to run you over. I gotta go. It's like, oh yeah. No, Merry Christmas. Yeah. God bless you too. Yeah. Peace be with you. Yeah. And so to me, I don't care if you go to church or not. It doesn't mean that you don't believe in God. It doesn't mean to me that you're not religious. Because you don't believe in the same faith I do, it doesn't mean to me that you're not religious. So, Juju, if that's how you feel, I'm sorry that's how you feel. But I mean, it's a good talking point. I mean, it's a good point to bring up. So thank you for proving my point that it doesn't matter.
I just got one question, because Juju has had the benefit of watching this podcast daily, getting great information to help him with the job, and not once has bought any coffee or donuts. So, Juju, when you go to church, do you put money in the jar? Do you donate to the church? You don't donate to this podcast, so I'm curious. Do you actually donate to church? You should. I always believe in paying it forward. If you show love for your religion, then give some money. I hope you do, Juju. I doubt it. You seem like a cheapskate to me, but who knows?
Everybody's saying the guy was killed with a silencer. I didn't see that. I didn't look enough though. So then I'm going to say, yeah, it was definitely a professional hit job. Although you could get silencers like outside of New York State in the city. And actually, I was speaking to a couple of people that you have to get like some ATF license to get it. So I went to the range recently, and this dude had a crazy gun with a silencer on it. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I'm like that, and he's like, yeah, you could get it. And I'm like, yeah. And like, so you could get like in Florida, you could get short barreled rifles and you could get silencers. And people use them to target practice with. So it doesn't hurt your eardrums. So they are accessible. And like growing up in New York City, I never knew that. I just thought silencers were completely illegal. I never like even realized that. I know in the city, they're obviously not allowed. But yeah, that's a crazy story. To me, it looks like it's professional, and I agree with Eric. It could be anything. It could be a business deal. It could be a lover's quarrel. I mean, I'm sure he's got big money and big insurance policies. If he's got a couple of marriages, I mean, that's the first place I'm going to go. I'm going to say, who's his ex-wife?
I was thinking the same thing. Nothing like a scorned woman. But, that's the first place that you look. When it comes to relationships. But we have no idea what this is. No doubt about it. It's definitely a targeted hit. Was it professional or not? It appears to be that way, right? I mean, we all think that. We all assimilate. When you think about silencers, you think of professional. You think of someone that knows what they're doing. But that's not always the case. I mean, we look at firearms differently in New York City than we do other places in the country. So, but there's no doubt about it. This is targeted. But it's scary. I think Sal's right. This is broad daylight. This is happening in New York City. This is not even happening in the outer boroughs. This is happening right in Manhattan, the epic center of the entire world. This is some scary stuff what's going on. I mean, we've seen in broad daylight a mentally ill homicidal maniac that looks so obtuse. I mean, you look at him, you see his face, like this guy looks crazy. He managed to go west to east along the avenues of New York City, going from west side to east side and commit 3 homicides. It's pretty insane when you think about it. So how safe is this city really? But that's okay. As long as we don't have the Danny Pennies of the world and we have a criminal-first society and we have illegal military-age males occupying the city and we have a vast amount of trend arrival with money and really growing within the city and the entire country, we're in good shape. That's the New York City we need to be in. Thank you, Eric Adams. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we missed this one from JF Dot, I think, $1.99. He says Benny Johnson has the testosterone levels of a soybean farm.
I actually read it.
Oh, you read it? Sorry.
Listen, I got abused yesterday for reading one twice. Your turn.
We got Sal Greco says, if you haven't realized it yet, Juju, you are the jester of the show. You will never be on the islands of relevancy, and no one will throw you a life preserver in the ocean. Hashtag low information. Leave our #1 fan alone, Sal. Leave Juju alone. All right? Leave him alone. Leave our court jester alone. I think people come just to argue with you, Juju. So thank you.
Juju does build the algorithm. Juju might be a member of the Finest Unfiltered family. So Juju, shout out to you. You know what? We have people that you like in your family. You always have people in your family that you don't like. So you know what, Juju, you're in the family. Welcome aboard.
Juju is the leader of the low information community of New York City. Vote for me. We are the same ethnicity. Vote for me. We shop at the same store. Sal, you're killing it today. That brings me to let's end off with MAGA Eric one more time. This is MAGA Eric. Rikers is failing. Prisoners have the right to safety in Rikers. They have no safety. They're being killed by other inmates. They're dying of overdoses in Rikers. The guards have no safety. They're being injured at ginormous rates, assaulted at ginormous rates. There's zero control over what's going in and out of Rikers Island. And, I said it before. I forget where I said it. I was on like some show and I said that, could you imagine Eric Adams sitting there and telling you to trust him? Rikers Island is a box that they place you in where you have no constitutional rights. You have very limited rights that are taken away from you. And you're in this building and you have no rights in there. And Eric Adams can't keep you safe from drugs or safe from violence in that box. But you expect Eric Adams to keep you safe from drugs and violence in a metropolis. The guy can't manage that. And so we've been talking about receivership in New York City prior to Eric Adams. I'm not going to lie, but he had 3 years to fix it, and he did nothing. Unlike what happened under Rudy Giuliani when he had Kerrick as the commissioner of Rikers. Rikers improved tenfold. Safety in Rikers, deaths in Rikers improved tenfold. So Eric Adams did nothing in 3 years. So I'm not blaming him on why Rikers is so bad. I'm just saying he did absolutely nothing and probably made it worse. And Eric Adams' claim to why, and his plea to Damian Williams as to why they shouldn't take Rikers out of his control. This is what he said, Eric. He said, "These people look like me. These people look like me. Give me a chance." And 3 years later, feds took it from him because he did nothing. Way more deaths came, way more assaults, to the point now they're building the world's tallest jail, a skyscraper, that doesn't house enough people to fit capacity to move them into a different building where they're not going to be able to control what goes in, what goes out, and keep you safe in there either. Oh, did we lose Eric? I think we lost him. He froze. But while we're waiting for Eric to come back, let's just go a little further on the Rikers thing. So the feds now take Rikers from Eric Adams, but he's building borough-based jails. Does anybody think that it's the building itself of Rikers Island that makes it unsafe? Does anybody think that? They're spending billions just to build one jail. They're going to spend billions to build 5. Way more money. They could take a quarter of the one building and revamp and redo the entirety of Rikers Island. Why wouldn't they do that? It's not the building. I had this argument with Errol Lewis. I've had this argument with everyone. Are you telling me the building in Rikers Island is the reason that people are unsafe? I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. The reason people are unsafe is because of the management and the leadership that's been put in there and the system that's been put in place, as well as the laws and the policy. That is the reason that prisoners are unsafe and guards are unsafe. That is why Rikers Island is dangerous. It has nothing to do with the 4 walls that they're in. Eric, we lost you for a second.
Yeah, I saw it was freezing up. I don't know what happened. There was a little glitch, but that's all right. You're absolutely right, brother. And Crazy 107 says it right here. Mismanagement at DOC is just a future NYPD. Absolutely, completely mismanaged. It's the system, it's the legislation, it's the policies of New York City Council, why there's an unsafe environment at corrections. You can't even put someone in who's creating an adversarial environment in isolation. And you have policies on that. You can't put someone more than 10 hours per week, 4 hours at a time. There's not much to work with there. The system is broken, and that's the problem. Is the building in the best condition? No, not necessarily, but that's not what's important there. What's important is how the system is run. The system is run properly in the NYPD for the most part when it comes to rank and file, and they're working in some low-light conditions.
We lost him again. That's it. Stalling. See, Elon Musk was mad. We talked about him today.
It's their building. So the building is just – I froze again?
Froze again, bro.
I think we're getting hot. It's almost 2.5 hours into it. So with that being said, I'll just get on. Stephen S., shout out to you. $2 to the podcast. Coffee, donuts, great show. Stay safe, and God bless. God bless you and VSS Vitoris. $5 to the podcast. Coffee and donuts. Here's the poverty franchise, Juju and John Pendulum Tits. Shell, Juju works a few extra shifts at Denny's and donate.
Ooh.
I'm sorry it's glitching, but it's maybe the stalling is getting hot, but yeah. Eric Adams is for Eric Adams. It's not the jail itself. It's not the building. It's the system. The system is broken.
Yeah. All right. I apologize, Elon, for making fun of you. It's over. You know, put us in charge of the New York City Doge. Somebody said New York needs a Doge committee, Department of Government Efficiency, and some serious leaders. I agree. All right. Let's be friends, Elon. I forgive you. You voted for Joe Biden. You came around. Now you're MAGA. I get it. But you actually are MAGA, because he could explain why he's MAGA, unlike Eric Adams. So anything before we get out of here? Friday, Eric wants to do a movie review. He wants to review The Departed. Does anyone have any other suggestions before we get off? Are you guys cool with Friday if we do a Departed? We can't watch it obviously because Juju and his buddies will copyright us, but we could do a breakdown of our analysis of The Departed. Does anyone else have any other thing that you'd like to do? Are you guys cool with The Departed? I'm all for it because I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, I think Fridays, like, casual dress down day. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about a movie. You can talk about how it relates to life. You can talk about if you like it, if you didn't like the actors. I just think it'll be fun. If anybody has any opposition to it, let us know. If you're in for it, we'll have a good time. We'll laugh it off. Juju, we know you'll show up. I'm sure you got some great comments to talk about racism. So, Juju, make sure you watch it on job time, as you normally do, before Friday, just to refresh your memory. So right after this, just pop it in. If you know The Departed, Leonardo DiCaprio is in it, I'm sure you know the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So Juju said he's taking off Friday. Thanks for the heads up. I don't believe him. We'll see you Friday, Juju. VSS and Torres says he's all for it. Sherry says all good. Labro says you guys need a urine test. Cato says all set fun. Matt O'Brien, good day, everyone. Naked Coffee again, $5 to the podcast. Naked Coffee's title came from being lovingly served coffee by a biological female. Thanks, guys. Love it. I love it. That's the way I like my coffee given to me too as well. Awesome. Love it.
Yeah, I only treat for that. That'd be great. I just want to get a cup of coffee at least.
I know, right? Coda says that he was watching on X, but he likes to support on Rumble. Yeah, however you guys want to watch, we put it out there for you guys. Yeah, it's on you. We're not going to tell you where and how to watch it. It is what it is. We're up on a lot of different platforms for a reason. It affects us in the short term, but we think in the long term, it's a great way to build a brand and a profile because we are volatile and we get so many complaints every day from so many haters because the truth is a terrible thing and nobody wants to hear it. So,
who is it here? Hold on. Popeye, damn it. Great point. He says, Eric, you don't think something newsworthy will happen by Friday? Absolutely. I mean, we never know what New York City's a jack in a box. You wake up like, what happened in New York City with Eric Adams or with this administration? NYPD, Jessica Tisch. If something is so newsworthy, we will switch gears and we'll go into that. Absolutely. Our plan right now is to have some fun Friday. Just talk about a movie. Just have some fun. If something is so newsworthy, we'll switch gears. We'll be right into that. Great point, Popeye, damn it. Absolutely. Ron Lacey says he's going to watch the movie, brush up on it. Sure. Marlon says Departed, Heat, Untouchables. All great movies. I think it's fun. I think movies are, great expression. And Rafael Martinez, shout out to you, $5. The Departed was based on another great movie, Infernal Affairs. I recommend both. Outstanding, brother. That was a good flick, too.
Was Internal Affairs, wasn't that like a Japanese movie or something? I think so. I never watched that movie. I heard that it was based off another movie. We'll talk about all that because I think it's based off of a couple of things, actually. We'll talk about all that. We'll get into it. But yeah, let's listen. If something happens Friday, we could do 2 shows. It's not a big deal. But I think I like the ideal instead of like always just going hard on New York City. Let's have some fun. Screw it. Let's do some movie reviews. I want to do some more book reviews. I got a lot of people booked that I read that I want to bring on. Eric's been busy lately, so I like us both to read it, but it's hard. You got a lot of stuff going on, and it's hard to do. So maybe we'll just bring them on, dude. Just have them on. Let them tell us about the book. But yeah, I say fun Fridays. Let's do it. I'm down for it because I need a break from all this. Especially, I'm going to be going hard Monday through Thursday. We're going to be getting a lot of hate soon, so I'm looking forward to it.
I think at this point I've become just completely desensitized to hate. I read hate, and sometimes it's gotten to the point where I just start laughing hysterically. I tell my wife, I'm like, "Oh, look at this! Look what this guy said about me." It's like some of the crazy stuff. I mean, someone put a comment about John's lawsuit, like John lost his credibility when he teamed up with me because I'm the most complained cop. I'm like, "Oh, look at this! John's getting hate because he teamed up with me." No matter what, I'll always be the most complained cop. That's why we're fighting the 58, because that doesn't leave you. You can get a clean slate by committing crime in New York City, but you can't get a clean slate in the NYPD. So, Vias Ventores, I know you told me. I have it on my list. I'm going to get that. I appreciate it. He said, check out Osprey Publishing's. He said that these books are up my alley. I definitely want to read it. I know you've been mentioning it. So I have that at some point. It's been running around. I definitely will. The RV definitely takes up a lot of my time, but I will. Osprey Publishing, so thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Ron says you guys should do a live soon so people who are able can use their voice. I don't know what you mean by that, Ron. I mean, I would like we welcome anybody on here. Like, I would like a way where you guys could come up and like talk and, we could just shoot the shit and go around. So, and you're always welcome to come on here, Ron. I'm sure a lot of people want to hear what you got to say, so yeah, but elaborate, if you could elaborate on that with us, now or offline, we'd appreciate it. Because yeah, we're always looking for other ideas on how to do. Juju says the podcast is done when Adams leaves office. Facts only. I disagree. What do you think about that, Eric? Do you think that this podcast is done when Eric Adams and Marjorie's Monsters are gone?
No, but it's a reflection. Sometimes when people say things, it's a reflection of themselves. You know who's done when Adams leaves? Juju's done. That's who's done. This podcast is still going to go. So you know what, Juju? You're probably going to want to try to come on this podcast. We know you want to start a podcast of your own. But that's who's done. Sayonara, brother. Listen, don't get me wrong. I'm going to miss you. Juju, when it's time for you to go and you can't spend all day on job time doing this, I'll miss you. Popeye David, $10. Eric, get that upgraded Starlink. Dude, I got the best Starlink you can get. It's like if there's one little branch in the way, I'm in a spot right now. There's a lot of trees. It's such a pain. It causes obstructions. We're trying, but we're going here almost 3 hours, so it's probably getting hot. This thing costs almost $600 for the Starlink, and then you pay a crazy amount of money per month. It works great. Podcasting, not so much, but that's all right. We power through it. Thank you, Popeye. Damn it. Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, but I don't think this podcast is going anywhere when Adams is out of office. I actually, maybe one day me and Eric won't be on the podcast. That's possible. But I think that, this is a platform that needed to happen. And I think, the amount of people that listen to it every month is the reason. And we're going to continue to grow and have other shows on here and have other personalities come up on here. I'd love if other people came on and started creating content on here, Marlon Bethel, Sal Greco, and whoever else in the future. I think we're going to build this platform out and give a voice to the rank and file cops. And obviously, as people retire, we'll bring new people on. And I think this is a much needed platform. I think Eric's right when he says that this was the first form of police media. I don't know that I love the title police media, but like, I like what we do is I think like we're like ESPN before, we're the ESPN of police. We're the ESPN, we're sports analysts, we're police analysts. Like we break down policy, legislation, politics, policy that's going on inside of the NYPD, rumors that are going on inside of the NYPD. And I think I think this platform is necessary, and I think it's only going to get bigger. It's only every month it proves that to me. I knew it would be popular. I just didn't realize how popular it would be. And I think every month that goes by, we just spread out more and more nationally and across the globe.
Listen, this podcast is growing. This is becoming a brand, just as Eric Adams likes to say. And we grow. I think that's a great point. I don't see myself going anywhere. I know John doesn't see himself going anywhere. But as we evolve, you know what? Maybe there'll be other faces doing the Finest Unfiltered, and maybe we'll be doing other aspects to help cops or whatever message that we're getting out there. Booster Malaka put, Frank Serpico should be on the podcast. He's well in his 80s now. Absolutely. We welcome anyone on this podcast. I would be glad to have Frank Serpico on. He does interact with us on X. And also Sal Greco. So sure. Patch Donahue puts, if the RV movie can't happen, maybe we can convene at the Globe Theater in the Fort 9. The popcorn butters out of the world. Patch Donahue, you must be a Bronx guy. I know the Bronx well, brother. Outstanding. Oh, definitely. Listen, I think that this podcast is necessary. I do believe that this is a new genre. I do believe it's the first of its kind. And I do believe it's police media. And I think it's necessary. I think there's more community engagement and more community building and amending a bridge with this podcast and community than the NCO program or community affairs or any program, because this is real. They get to see cops real talk. and see cops as actual people. Community fairs, all this stuff, they never see it as cops as real people. They see it as artificial. They know that the cops are being told to do this. It's part of their job. But this is real. This is something different, and it's real conversations. It's not just conversations on the surface. What happens with these community meetings? I've seen it. The commanding officers, when they show up, and I would show up to these meetings, they would have brief conversations, and the commanding officer would want to get the hell out of there because you can't have real conversations. If you have real conversations, you won't be juju and make it to the upper echelon of the police department. So you can't have real conversations. It's artificial. That's why the Finest Unfiltered is important. It's the most impactful entity on the outside of the police department to actually help within. The unions, completely nonsense. They just take your money. So you know what? From now on, just take $51.84 and throw it in the garbage bi-weekly because that's what your union dues are doing for you.
Juju says, does anyone actually live in New York City? Currently, no, but I'll be up there in 2 weeks, Juju. I'll let you know the events we're at. I look forward to seeing you. You flaked out on me on the last one. I'll be up there for a few weeks. We'll do some events. Maybe I'll show up at some Christmas parties, NYPD Christmas parties. Let's see. Who knows? The world is new every day. Every day we live. We have invited Frank Serpico on the podcast. He had never responded. He does respond to us on X, though, sometimes. So, yeah, he's always welcome. Mr. D says, I would like to hear Corey Pegues on the podcast. I've invited Corey Pegues on the podcast. He's never responded. Although many of these people follow us and interact with us and have a lot to say, none of them seem to want to sit down and talk with us. I think we've been nothing but respectful to everybody that's came on this platform. I have no idea why that is. But yeah, if anybody knows Corey Pegues, reach out to Corey Pegues. Ask him why he never responded to me. Why'd you never respond, Corey? Right? I thought Thug Life is sitting down here and actually having conversations and talking about things. So yeah, I don't know. I've been getting a lot of new followers on LinkedIn recently too. So, none of those people want to come on here either.
I don't know about X. I'm definitely shadow banned. My followers have been just dwindling away, but I don't care. That's not why we do this. We do this because we enjoy it. We enjoyed our time on the job. We enjoy what we're doing now, and we're moving forward. Honestly, I'd like to thank the NYPD for not having my back because now I'm on this path. I didn't see myself retiring in this manner. You know, I planned on retiring close to 20, maybe 21, 22. I wanted to get promoted to captain and walk out the door. That was pretty much my goal. But it didn't happen. And that's okay. This is not the whole story. This is part of the story. And this story I love. I'm so happy it came to this point doing the podcast. I enjoy it. It's great. Opens new doors. Met a lot of friends that we wouldn't engage with before. Unfortunately, sometimes when you're on the job, you kind of forget about retired members. And I realized that in retirement myself. So we definitely need more bonding. We need to bring retired guys more into it because you bring knowledge, you bring experience, you bring history, you bring the past. So thank you. Coda36 says, I never see Eric on X. I have to search for you. I'm on X. It's Eric Tim Cop. I don't know. I'm on every day, so I don't know why you don't see me. I'm there. You can see my picture in uniform with my baton. So check it out. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and so Ron's talking about let's do X Spaces. So for those of you guys that aren't on X, we recommend you join X. Let's do that. Let's figure that out too. We'll do Fun Fridays, and once a month, why don't we do an X Space? And the difference between the X Space and this is you only see the X photo, right? So you'll just see whatever's on your X. You won't see anything else other than that. So whatever your name and your X handle is, that's what will be up there. I had just brought up Marlon Bethel's X handle, how it looks. I'll bring it up again for you guys. So this is basically how your X handle looks. So if we do an X space and you want to join the live, and you'll see, like, if you follow me or Eric or Marlon or Sal, you'll see like a purple ring when we're live, and you could click on our face and it'll say join the live. So then you could join the live, and all that'll come on there is your photo and @Fire Detective, right? And then we're all in this group chat, and usually myself and Eric and Sal moderate it, and we let speakers come up. You request to speak, we'll let you speak, and we just go around in the circle, and everyone takes their time. We just ask people to keep it to like 2-3 minutes, and we go around in a circle, and we do it respectfully. So yeah, so Ron, any topic you'd like, bring it up. Let's start off the first month. Let us know what you want to talk about. Let's pick a date. Today is December 4th. Maybe we pick up a night, an off night, like a Sunday night, a Tuesday night, something like that, a weird night. Let's pick a night. We'll do it once a month. We'll do an X space. All you guys are welcome. Juju, come on here. And come on the X space and let's hear your voice, bro. Let's go. Let's get into it. And we could you could ask questions in real time. And yeah, I try to do my best with keeping up with the comments, but I gotta be honest, it's hard, dude. You guys, especially when I'm talking, you guys are, and then I'm trying to bring up content and people are still coming up. So yeah, let's do it.
I gotta laugh. Popeye David says, you guys need to wrap it up shortly. Bongino at 11. Yeah, I got the same thing for Bongino.
Yeah.
Same thing. You know what? Bongino claims to support cops, but yet he never had John and myself from the Fires Unfiltered on his show, which he should. We've been extremely impactful helping out the rank and file. We support the rank and file with our friends who listen on the podcast. So you know what? That's my thoughts on Dan Bongino. Listen, you want to watch it? God bless. But does Dan Bongino give the same perspective that we give? No. Dan Bongino doesn't have nearly as much experience as we do. And I'm not knocking him for that, but that's the reality. So we kind of question, why doesn't he want to call us on why doesn't he call us on the show? You know, is it intimidation? Should be no reason. We just, would like to have a message to put out to the cops to help them support the rank and file.
Yeah. I got something about Dan Bongino, though. Before we go, real quick, I found this pretty good. I can't find it. All right, don't worry about it. It is what it is. But yeah, let's wrap this up. This has been going on too long anyway. I appreciate everybody for being on here. We had about 700 people on here most of the time in the chat. Appreciate all you guys for listening. We'll be back tomorrow, 8:05 live. Like I said, we'll keep this mandate thread going. Expect a new about the lawyer who said, I don't give a shit. We're going to have a new meme coming out very shortly about that. And yeah, there's going to be a lot more breakdown of the testimony, and we'll keep it going. Tomorrow will be a new day. Let's see what happens with this CEO that was murdered. Prayers to him and his family. Horrible act on the streets of New York City, murdered in broad daylight in what Eric Adams calls the safest big city in America. So prayers to him. Eric, you got anything before we get out of here?
Almost 3 hours. Take care, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow, 8:05 live. Thank you so much. And of course, for me, I'm in the great state of California right now. Pacific Coast, 5:05 in the morning, bright and early. See you tomorrow.
All right, later, guys.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888 901 blue. That's 888 901 blue.